Man, I like that intro music.
It's good stuff.
Okay. So, welcome to FMA Talk Live. This is Dr. Tim and my co-host.
PG Ty's here. Welcome.
All right. So, our guest is working on getting in. So, today is going to be, as Eric has pointed out, Eric from Portland. Obviously, didn't go to the gym today because he wanted to make this show.
Excellent.
That this is the double Datu impact. So, yeah. So and our guest is right there. I see him. I'll bring him in right here. So I know he's got a limited schedule. So with no further ado, from the SeaTac, Seattle, Tacoma, Washington area, Datu Kelly Worden.
Sir, oh man, what's going on? You guys got me on.
Okay, I know you're getting your things going there.
I got it.
Cool. How you doing?
All right. Yeah. You know, I just got out of the shop. You know, knives are the most important thing to me these days. I'm trying to get that one ready for to send out to a guy out of Canada. So
cool.
You know, it just yeah. And tech stuff isn't my gig. So
it is what it is. So
yeah.
So we're going to be talking about the topic. I know Kelly's got a limited schedule today, so we're going to see what we can get in. So I'm going to
I got an hour. I'm
going to knock out some things here, and you tell me if I got this right. And of course, my furry sidekicks are going a little crazy here. So, I'm going to mute the mic here. Hold on.
No, that's all right. Doesn't bother me. Leon's right at the bottom of my feed, so he'll probably sing in. So.
All right. So, Ty, why don't you take over for a moment?
Sure, yeah. Well, welcome. I'm glad you could make it. We have actually never met, right?
Hey, Ty. Well, I've seen you on video and things like that. So I guess, there's so many people and the internet is like that. Hey, man, I know you.
That's right, exactly.
It's like, okay.
Well, in some sense, we're in my mind, we're related, obviously, from martial arts. But I don't know if you knew, I was born in Anacortes, Washington.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so
local boy.
There you go. Yeah. It was a while ago. But anyway, yeah.
And you both like bikes.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true, man. I'm looking at one right now, but it is what it is.
Okay. And then Dean Franco says hello to everyone. Hey, Dean.
Hey, what's going on, Dean?
Yeah.
I know he was trying to do something with Modern Arnis. I just haven't heard from him, so maybe he doesn't.
Well, actually, well, Dean, there you go. There's the segue you've been waiting for. So let me knock this out real quick. So for those who haven't, who may not have, who travel in different circles, may not know much about Datu Worden here. Let's start off the back. The first American Datu. Okay. So we got the bookends here. He was the first. I was the last. That's kind of cool. Knife maker and designer. The Wartac is one of the most popular designs I've seen out there. And when Kelly and I first met, he actually gave me one, a Timberline version. Impact Karambit, which is that also nicknamed the Travel Wrench?
Yeah. We did that for covert reasons.
Yeah. And then you've got a straight version of that too, right?
Yeah. There's a safety wrench, and then the palm wrench.
Palm wrench. Okay.
Yeah.
The Silent Fighter.
Yeah. I'm working on 4 of those right now, man.
So think Wing Chun dummy to the next generation.
Yeah.
Let me see here. You were a contributor for Full Contact Magazine.
Sure. Fighting Knives.
Yeah. Fighting Knives. You're one of the featured talent for Paladin Press for videos.
Actually, their first breakaway into, I guess, we're mainstream guys. So, yeah.
There you go. Let me see. I'm trying to think of all the other things. You actually, now, I don't know what you're doing with it as of late because things changed since COVID, but probably the longest running actual training camp where people go camping.
Yeah, 42 years of water and steel. Well, it was Warrior Retreat in Eastern Washington, Mission Ridge. And then we went to Tanglewood Island, and then we found Raft Island. So, Tanglewood, you had to take the boat out there, and there was really torrential tides when the tides changed. So you had to kind of, do Dr. Hahn type of thing and time the travel. But now we got a little bridge out to Raft Island, so that's perfect, So.
Are you still doing the camp?
Yeah, it's coming up Labor Day weekend every year. I don't know how that started. I believe that Laura Worden, my first wife, that was her weekend off, and so we just started doing it that way. And everybody had a 4-day weekend. So yeah, I've just kept it that date. So yeah.
So let me hear. Let's catch up with some people. So Chad Bailey says hello from Florida.
Hey, Chad.
And then definitely Datu Kelly Worden. Yes, let's do it. So obviously there you go. Frank Shikowski says hello from Connecticut, Middletown. Romeo Bravo says hello. Amazing martial artist, highly respected. GM Kelly's a solid human being. All right. And then Kurt. How's it from Homer, Alaska? Stop it. Looking forward to coming down to Water and Steel in September. And then Darren from Philadelphia says, hello.
There you go.
All right. So, Ty, why don't you take over? So, I need to take care of somebody here. This is usually the first half hour of the show. So I don't want to waste time because I know you only have a limited amount of time. But the theme is, how do we get to the Pacific Northwest?
Yeah, so let's go and dive right into it if you're ready.
Sure, man. No sweat.
So if you were going to start somewhere, I'll put it in your court. Where would you start if you're telling the story about how Remy got started up there in the Pacific Northwest?
Oh, wow. Well, that would have been Professor Leonard Trigg. I don't know if he was having the professor title then. We've known each other 43 years or 44 or something like that. So I was with Kui Broca, and at that time, Professor Trigg was with Ernesto. So that was the connection. And Trigg rolled up to our training facility at that time, and he was selling some sticks. He opened his 69 Chevy trunk, and it was full to the rim. And I kid you not, there must have been 1,000 sticks in there.
Holy moly.
And I went crazy. I was like, oh, feel, touch, handle, twirl, and we just hit it off from there. But yeah, he was the first to bring Ernesto in, and Grandmaster Estalusa. Roberto even came in at that point in time. And somewhere along the line, he hooked up with Ramey as well and brought Ramey into the Portland area, and Ernesto too. So that would have probably been in the late 70s. And Trigg was he was a Oregon police officer, head of tactics and training. And so he was traveling back and forth to the Philippines, paid for by law enforcement agency. And so, yeah, that was kind of how that worked. And Professor Trigg and I have been friends ever since. I stayed with Kui Broca until 82. At that point in time, I switched over to Ramey. I'd seen him actually in like 81. Ed Lewis, my kung fu teacher at that time, kind of a progressive JKD format. Former Ishin Ryu. I started with him in Ishin Ryu, and but he was his mom was Filipino, and she would always chase us out of the house, she was going to eskrima us, and I was like, oh, well, I'm screaming, get her away from us, But so that was kind of my first breakaway into Filipino Arnis. It wasn't structured, but we were doing Sinwali and stick tricks like Kaji Kembo did. And then from there, Kui had came into the area. I had my gym down on Ruston, Washington, with Sugar Ray Seals when Seals was still fighting pro. So he would be pretty much there doing the boxing daytime stuff. And then I took over the evening classes or the evening facility, did all our training in a boxing ring. So it was kind of a rough and tumble type of thing. But so yeah, I started with Ramey late '82, early '83, and he was really cordial and he was excited because I had Cui's system. I was a first on or ontis. I don't do a lot of terminology. I figure if I can't order Filipino food or Chinese food or Japanese food without pictures, I don't go too deep into the terminology. But yeah, so Raymond was just a great guy. He says, "Oh, that is part of my system. You already have it." So it worked out really well. So, and Datu Dieter was one of Cui's longtime students too. Right. So as well as Ernesto. So family issues and family business there with the Praces brothers. So good to see you back, Tim.
Yeah, I heard the whole thing, but unfortunately, the knucklehead is still
barking.
Yeah. Janice came home, so of course now it's that whole thing.
Well, I'm surprised Leon isn't responding because he's laying right here by my feet. So, like, hey, there's a dog.
What do you have? What is Leon? I don't think it's.
Staffordshire.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Bull Terrier. There he is, right there. Okay, buddy, I see you.
Yeah, I got a small puppy. He's a Rottweiler. He's only 170.
Yeah, now Staffies are kind of all muscle, and but they're knee high at the very best, But yeah, he'll roll with anybody though.
Call them, dinosaur dogs.
Good.
Yep, nice. So
anyway, what's going on?
Yeah, so actually, let's go on further with that if you don't mind.
Sure.
So you met Ramey then, and would he come in often, or would Professor
come
in, or?
Well, actually, in '83 or so, then it was Fred King bringing him into the Academy of Kung Fu. Then I would bring him here to Washington. Then he'd go to Vancouver. So it was kind of one of those things. Once he hit the West Coast, my goal was I would go down to see him in Oregon. Then he'd come. Well, we had the Evergreen College course in Olympia. That was a summer camp. And then from there, I'd pick him up or he'd hang out with me for a few days and we'd drive up to Vancouver and do that. Shashir was in Vancouver at that time. And so was Fred Shadian and a few of the other guys in that region. So, yeah. So I'd try to hook up with him when he was in Oregon and drive up the coastline with him. And interesting times. He was quite the gypsy.
Right. Well, I remember I've only driven with a few times for a few short trips, but those were always good visits.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Long time, nonstop conversation for the most part.
Right.
Yeah.
So Romeo Bravo wanted to know, was Ernesto a long-haul truck driver and Guru John Daniels, how did they come together? Now, was there another Ernesto you mentioned when you were talking when I had to walk out, or just...
No, it's just Ernesto. Yeah,
Ernesto was not a long. He was not a driver.
No, he was a visitor. Yeah, for sure. And JD's associate with him was a long time one. I remember that. I mean, and I've known JD for years and years. He trained with Kurt Goodwin and some of my other students down there. And Kurt was one of Janessa Cruz's students before he jumped ship and came into Natural Spirit. Janessa's Cruz's group was Women with Heart. So I don't know how Kurt fit into that, but there were a few guys in that group. So, but all talented women and great practitioners.
And then John,
JD.
John says, I know JD. He met Fred King as well. Okay.
Sure.
And then Coach Danny Terrell from Peking Church. She says, "Good evening." He is from Louisiana.
Okay.
And then let's see. I know Kurt Goodwin as well. Okay, good. All right. So, who was the first one to host the camps up that way?
Well, I would say hosting. Well, you mean
The actual
Olympia,
camp.
Evergreen,
Yeah, I get it. Was
Evergreen.
Olympia the first camp?
That was first camps I was attending.
Okay.
But there were weekend events at Fred King's Academy of Kung Fu. That was a very big facility. I think it was an old, local neighborhood supermarket when he transitioned it.
Okay.
So, yeah. So those were pretty big. I mean, 60, 65 people, something like that, and and Fred, that's when Dan was coming into those, and I mean, gosh, Barbara Bones, Wendy Dragonfire, they were two of the regulars there. I'm not sure what their organization was called at that point in time, but like I said, I know Janessa was Women with Heart, and but mostly Kaji Kembo. Those were Kaji Kembo base, and then whatever their club names were, that type of thing.
That's cool. Yeah, I met Janessa up on one of the trips I went up there after Professor passed. I talked to Wendy periodically, Wendy Dragonfire, via Facebook.
Sure.
But she had already moved before. She's over in Amsterdam right now, so I don't.
Yeah.
I didn't come into contact with her until after she had left. But yeah. So we got Fred King, we got you.
Well, Dan was there. Dan started rolling in there.
Right,
he kind of hesitated, probably when Professor was just rolling into that area. Wasn't much interested in Arnis, and of course, once he got turned on to it, he was like, "Oh my God, what the hell's this?" So there was a lot of that early on, late '70s, early '80s. I believe Dan states that he started with Ramey in 1980. So we weren't real good friends back then. It's just kind of a weird situation. We could talk a little bit about it. I mean, he wrote it in his book. I haven't really read everything he wrote, but he talked a little bit about our disagreements, and and that's an interesting story because that's how the Datu title came in. It's just like, oh wow, yeah, So, but however you guys want to go, continue. Leon,
well, we can talk about the Datu title there. That'd be an interesting topic on this. I mean, we'll segue a little, but I'd like to get back on a couple of things and see if this guy had any other questions. But when you said the Datu thing,
how'd that work?
Yeah, I mean, how'd it work out your way? Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Well, Bob Anderson. I don't know if you guys know Bob, but he's been at my camps for 44, 45 years, something like that. And then Jim Keating as well. Okay. Later on, Joe Simonet, and then just some other guys, Alec Corper from Amsterdam, and Marcus Houston from Scotland. So, Mick Nichols out of Australia. So anyway, we kind of had our pretty good group of highly skilled guys. And so I wasn't really worried about a black belt or a rank, but I did test early on and got the advanced instructor certification from Ramey. And, so I was just letting my students do testing. And I didn't really care. I had Shotokan and Ishinryu and Combat Arnis and a few things like that. I said, belts don't protect me in my environment, so let's just move on. I was just excited to see an art that allowed me to integrate just about anything, like the old kind of ongoing joke, what was number one? And so it's all number one or it's all number two, that type of thing. And so apparently at the Olympia camp, I let my students test. I ain't going to say I changed the Anyo, I interpret it differently. And so there was kind of an argument where they held we didn't do it like they wanted to do it, but I could number a lot of the guys down there that were influenced with different kinds of kung fu and different arts that expressed it differently, either softer or harder, that type of thing. And so, Ramey is like, hey, they're upset that you're not testing. I said, I don't feel any need to test. I'm here for your concepts and your methodology of how you teach. And that really intrigued me. And I really didn't want to be bound up by having to change my curriculum at my school. Like I said, we trained in a kickboxing ring or a boxing ring. And at that point in time, we did a lot of catch wrestling and pretty much MMA stuff. Early on, that was 1983. So, I was running WKA, World Kickboxing Association, for state of Washington, training referees and being the state director of that program. So Ramey's like, hey, they're upset that you won't test. I said, it ain't that I won't test. It's just that I'm not testing. If they want to test me, tell them to step out on the floor with a stick or a knife. This doesn't have to be about sparring. I'll match my curriculum with anybody there, and, really, let's test your shit out on the floor. And so as we continued on, we got back to my house and, Ramey decided it was time to test me to a degree. And I was like, oh, well, okay, if that's where it's at. And it got pretty tangled in, pretty rough. And at the same time, I was just like, I just oversee the progression. That's why a lot of these guys came to me for, even Cooey's Arnis, because there wasn't a structured Arnis method. I said, then I found yours. I says, so I'm just overseeing a lot of guys, and I'm blending what they have into their Kajikembo, into their Gojo, into their Shotokan, into their Taekwondo. And he goes, oh my God, you're right. You're Datu. And I was like, what's that? And he goes, you're a chieftain. You're head of your own tribe. I was like, I don't understand. He goes, well, you talk to Shishir about that, so that was it, man. It was, I says, well, what's a Datu? And he goes, you're a chieftain. You're a ruler of your own group. And I was like, okay. I said, what rank is that? He says, you give rank. Don't worry about what rank. I was like, okay, well, I do that anyway. So yeah, I'm good with that. So it was very, relaxed, so to speak, other than shocking. I surely didn't want the title because I'll say it without being radical. I'm a white dude. I don't do that. And I just ran a gym. So my school was a gym and we taught martial arts. So I wasn't overly concerned about any of that. But it was Bastilio and Lukey and Sonny Umpad and different Professor Trigg that said I must honor it and accept it and do it. I can't say that anybody along the West Coast that was also involved in Modern Arnis agreed with it. As a matter of fact, when we came to the next camp and my students were signing up, they signed their instructor as Datu. And they stopped the camp, had a meeting in the back room, and pretty much did everything except for throw me under the physical bus. So, I worked through it. I mean, it lasted for, I don't know, 10 years, so, I don't know. Ramey announced me, oh, bring the Datu out. Then Rick Jornallo showed up. That was interesting too. So then we had Shishir, myself, and Rick Jornallo showed up. We could talk about that one. That was a good part of the story. But anyway, I want to let you guys chat a little bit. So what's your thoughts on anything you've already heard?
Well, lots of good history for one thing, but I know we got a visitor who wants to say hi.
Okay.
Oh, hold on.
You may know him.
Yeah. Here we go. Rocky Passwick says,
hey, hi, Rocky.
And he goes, the quality of your students and peers do more than validate you, Kelly.
I appreciate that. And that's 100%. That's 100%.
Danny Terrell says politics sucks. Yes, they do. Yes,
I mean, that's where the rubber meets the road, right? I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, no, I mean, I put my stuff out on the floor, out on video, always have. So, and the critics, how I challenge them is, hey, you know what? I do everything on a nickel and a dime while raising a lot of kids and a lot of grandchildren and taking care of a big group of students, young men now who are running their own gyms, but they were troubled youths, a lot of them Filipino. And I just let them clean the gym, let them train for free. I call them scholarships. So I've got a whole town of T-Town kids that are now, bringing their kids and maybe grandkids just to meet me, but a lot of them were amazing fighters, highly skilled. They're running their own gyms. And, I mean, the Belt and Luba story is a great story too, but where were we on Rick Jornalis? I mean, that's and he did get the third Datu title, and so that's a great story. But you guys probably got a couple other questions, and just remind me about Rick.
Oh, Rick's good people. He went a different direction though.
Oh yeah.
He had a divorce and ugly custody thing that took him out of
exactly. Yeah.
Took him out of that. And that's that's the problem. Unfortunately, a lot of times people forget about the big picture. Martial arts does a lot for us, but at the end of the day, it's family first.
Yeah, exactly, 100%.
Yeah.
And my martial arts family is my family kind of thing, So I've only ran a couple of commercial schools. Most of them I've considered to be gyms. And my last commercial school was 2005. And at that point in time, I was training for special forces. So a lot of how it was just difficult for me to do everything that I was doing. So I was just like, hey, I can't run this commercial school and be responsible for that level, So I just transitioned back into a small building and pretty much kind of made it closed doors. If I didn't know you or you didn't have an entry or somebody recommended, and I let my students choose who gets promoted. People come to me for rank all the time, and I goes, well, my students promote you because there's no guarantee how long I'll be here, and they have to be the ones that put up with you in 10 years or 20 years when you're dropping my name. So, so I let my students make those choices, and it's easier to wash the questionable attitudes and things like that outside, because I like everybody for the most part, or I dislike them, one of the two.
Well, it gets them to own part of it too, so that's awesome. I'm digging here, listening to you too talk about your students and their programs and things like that. To me, that shows where your heart is, and I love that. So
yeah. Well, I've always painted cars and did stuff like that. When I stopped painting cars, I painted motorcycles and murals and custom work, flame jobs, things like that, graphics. And so I was never depending on martial arts as a career or financial stability. So that was kind of how that worked. Yeah.
Okay. So Chad Bailey said from Florida, Kelly's programs are fantastic. I really enjoyed integrating his Sabat info with what I do.
Yeah. Well, the Sabat was part of the Datu thing. Was I showed Professor this is funny too. I brought down this coat rack, and I had Arnis, and they're kind of tripod stand, right? And hats and coats, it's got all these things. I took those off and put rattan bows and sticks all over it, and then rack-a-tack-tack. And you hit it too hard. I put some padding on it too, nothing big, but just enough to take the ting out of the metal stand. And so you hit it hard, it starts to fall over. And, and these guys were laughing at me at the Olympia camp. And I was like, oh, well, you see, nobody's going to stand still and take a beating. So the dummy don't stand still either. So as you hit it, next thing you know, you hook behind it with a abanico or a palace type of energy, and you pull it back into you. Now you got this dummy thing that's flying, and then of course Ramey got over there and started doing redondos on it and stuff. Oh my God. Well, then everybody wanted to touch it, soon as it was endorsed by the old man. And, it all originated by watching Sticks of Death with Roland Dantes. When Grandpa made that coconut head, those sticks, and Dante's running through the jungle, and then that was part of his challenge match, was beat the coconut head man up, So that was kind of what I was doing, originating something to hit, and that's how the Silent Fighter was made. So that was kind of a cool.
Well, and actually, I was just about to ask if that had a tie in there, so that's cool.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, but it became bigger. I created a big pole, like a bagua pole, and buried it in the ground, and then added things to it. Then somebody said, "Hey, can you make me one of those?" And I think one of the first ones I made was for Taki Kimura. So yeah, and I made one for Jesse as well. And wow, crazy stuff.
Okay, so here we go. Rocky has family and life can have a toll on the martial artist. It's good to see Remy's people coming together more. This and we've had a bunch of Modern Arnis people back on this show, which is great because from different groups, different lineages per se.
Sure.
Let me see. Here we go. Kurt, I had the great pleasure to demo with Kelly Worden at the West Coast Balint Walk in August. It was a powerful moment for me.
Appreciate that, Kurt. That was a couple good times actually up there. This last time I was teaching knife, I'm not going to try to compare my stick to Bobby's. He does something that's special, amazing, great energy, great personality. What a cool dude. I know that Ramey's smiling down on him. I can remember when Bobby just came into the United States, and pretty much Ramey said, "Hey, I'm giving him Erwin Carmichael. I'm giving him North Carolina." And I says, well, the weather will suit him well there. I can't take North Carolina too often, but so no, Bobby's a great guy, and I'm grateful that he asked me to teach knife. And I had a good time, man. Had a good time.
Nice.
So I think Belton was hosting that one at that time, or John Soriano. John's an amazing guy too. What a great technician.
Yeah, we love hanging with John.
Yeah, Josh is cool. So
yeah. Okay, so let me see here. Yeah, it was at Belton's gym. Okay, Belton's gym. Okay, very good.
Here, well, let's go to that Rick Bongson thing. So Rick shows up at Olympia, and he brings in these huge bags, and he starts unpacking them down. And Ramey's like, "Oh no, let's do this later." And he's like, "Datu, why don't you take Rick out to the field?" And so I carried the bags out there, like, okay, well, he's a guest here. And so I carried the bags out there. We unload him, and he's, twirling. I mean, he's just an amazing technician, great showman, really. And, so I said, well, what are you doing? He's like, hit. No. This is this is that, this is this is that. And so we had a great exchange, and I pretty much manhandled not all the weapons because there's some things I just don't do. But I went from commas to size to spear and broadsword. And so I stay within the main elements of technical elements from sword and stick and knife and double stick and the spear. And so then we're coming back, and Rick's carrying them. And Ramey's like, oh, what is this? When you leave, you are carrying the weapons. And when you come back, he is carrying the weapons. I said, well, he found out who the real Datu was. And Ramey just kind of snickered. Then we went down to North Carolina, and the same thing kind of occurred. Rick got out there to do his demo, and I just jumped in alternating. and literally took all the weapons. Like if I'm doing kama, well, I might as well be Anyo Isa, Anyo Delawa, Anyo Tatlo, and then some improvisational stuff that lead from there, where Rick was just doing his performance levels. And, great to watch, man. I mean, I wish I had his flexibility, but he's not 230. So I can accept the fact that, no, I'm not totally flexible, but geez, Rick's a serious Gumby kind of guy. I mean, but yeah, great technician, had a good time. We had a great time down in North Carolina at Irwin's. Sorry, yeah, at Irwin's place. So, yeah, now he's a sheriff or something, isn't he? Or
he's retired now, I think.
Is he? Okay. Yeah.
I think he was running for mayor at one time, or
okay, yeah. He was a fireman when I was down there, and then he went for sheriff, and and then I think he was running for councilman or regional congressman or something like that. So yeah. So that was the story on Rick, but it was good. I think we got a couple pictures of Rick, Shishir, and myself, and so that was fun to experience that early on. And then Dieter was the fourth one in line, and that pretty much came from his association to Ernesto. Another political jump that Ramey did to, I don't know, put Ernesto in his place, so to speak. But, those are better left told by Dieter.
I think Dieter had already left. Ernesto, and as I was explained, if anyone had a tribe, it was Dieter. I mean, he had a huge tribe.
Yeah, sure.
Does,
Yeah.
Let me see here. Let's talk. Rocky. Kelly, your Rick story is similar to the Blintwalk story I have involved with him back in 1985 or 86, before Blintwalk was really heard of in the U.S. We'll have to talk soon. Okay.
Yeah.
What's this? Tim and Ty. Is that?
My Babayan's not that good. I can't read it.
I just get blocks in front of me, so.
It's
no. That's our Filipino tour guide.
Oh, okay.
When I went to Negros. She keeps changing the name now all the time.
Okay, that's why.
Her and her sister, and are in the photo there. Okay.
Nice.
Asked me recently if I was going to be they thought I was in the Philippines. I'm like, no. Christine, yep. So, yes. And her sister. Well, the photo's her sister.
Right.
So since we kind of went into the okay, so we're going to stay on this Datu thing, but let me just double. Okay, so Leonard Trigg was pretty much the person that you would say is the most influential about getting Remy into the Pacific Northwest.
Oh yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
There you go.
Yeah.
There, and Leonard Trigg is, and as we talked before, he's not a very public kind of guy. He likes being behind the scenes more than in front of the cameras, right?
Sure. And his skill level is just off the chart. And to see a guy 6'4", 6'5", to move like he does is just pretty amazing.
Now, did you? And this is when I had to walk and take care of. I thought I heard from the other room. Did you say he was a law enforcement officer? LEOs?
Yeah. Yep.
So, and that's kind of the thing right there. A lot of LEOs are low key. They don't want to be out in the public eye.
Sure.
Not covert, because that's not what we're saying. It's just that they have a different role, and it's very common. I see a lot of. Well, it's also the same thing when you go to the trade show. There's the operators, and then there's the operators, and usually the ones that talk less are the ones that you really need to worry about, or they're the ones that are less bullshit, and the ones that are, I did this, I did that. I'm like, maybe not. Doesn't sound right to me, but I'm not in that field, so I wouldn't know. Mm-hmm. So okay. So obviously Dieter had a tribe, so it made sense for Dieter to be a Datu. The one thing I didn't know is how did Hoffman?
Well, I think Hoffman was tied in with Randy Shea in a lot of ways, and Hoffman was also an acupuncturist. And so there was that aspect. David and I were never personally introduced. He sent me all kinds of written documentations. He was like served vice president of Modern Arnis when it was organized. And so, yeah, there's some interesting documents that he sent me. It's probably better we don't talk about it.
I think I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. So, but
about a wrist lock.
I never seen David do anything, do much, that type of stuff. But so I think possibly maybe it was administrative. I did get some wind that his knife skills were pretty dynamic, but never seen it or.
I've known Dave for years. Well, of course, I don't want to speak ill of the dead because he had passed away. But I met him the first camp I went to was the '86 Mississippi Summer Camp. That's where I first met him. And he could move. There was no question that he could move. I think he was in England when that all went down, and he may have had a following over there. But I wasn't sure. If there was something else going on there. If there was, because it's always good to get other information, things from a different perspective. So
again, pretty much all our either phone calls or internet stuff, and especially after Professor passed away, then I just got swarmed with all kinds of stuff. So I just put a lot of things in Word files and tucked it away.
You and me both, brother. Sounds like we have a lot of the same similar traits when it comes to stuff like that. Ty, what do you got? Anything jumps out at you here?
Well, actually, I'm just enjoying all the history because all this stuff. Remember, I started the early '90s, so all this stuff I had heard about but never been a part of. So this is really really good for me to hear.
And right now, once again, we got 23 live viewers, which usually with podcasts like this, you don't get a lot. I mean, Dean Franco was telling me, I was doing our shows, and I said, yeah, we have like 15 on average. He goes, that's really good numbers to live because he usually doesn't have that until after the show. And actually, last week we had a phenomenal show, a lot of really good interaction. So I was really excited about this show too because, having you on and with the interaction we had last time, I thought it was just gonna be another win-win. So let me see from Danny Terrell. Trig is quite a soft-spoken, unassuming. He moves with smoothness and power.
Well, about Trig, prior to, Arnie's participation, he was in the military. He was part of the Kyokushinkai. So he was one of those bare knuckle guys in Europe fighting with some of the top fighters over there. Prior to that, even old school boxing. His father taught him old school boxing. So he's one of the most classically trained boxers. As a matter of fact, he's Dan Inosanto's boxing coach. He's in charge of, in charge of Master Chai's boxing, where Chai takes care of the Muay Thai. Trig's the technical advisor for Western boxing integration there. He was very close with Lucky Luke, Ted's father. So the Panatukan, the knife boxing, and the stick boxing was all part of that formulation and integration. As a matter of fact, he took over Luke College AKD. That was where one of my more recent certifications came from 4 or 5 years ago, endorsed by Dan Inosanto, Master Chai, and Herman Sawanda, as well as Professor Trigg and the late Greg Allen out of Texas, who was actually bodyguard for Donald Trump when Trump was down in Texas, but Greg was a great technician, full level under Inosanto as well. Trigg really, Bastilio really admired Trigg. Of course, Rich was a hell of a boxer, great mover. As a matter of fact, Richard was considered the enforcer for Bruce's group. You know, if you said you were about Bruce, and you know, Bastilio wanted to know. And you know, he brought me in for. I had trained with Rich for years and years. I wasn't interested in getting in line. So I just wanted the JKD, the formulation. We did that early on in the 1980s. I called it Poor Boy JKD because we didn't have silver spoons and we weren't going to buy into it, you know. So, hey, what do you call that? Poor Boy JKD. Later on, it became Renegade JKD because, yeah, I was accused of that more than one time. But, you know, so when Edgar Salete passed away, Trig was considered the heir to that because it would have been Dan, but Paula and Dan decided that it was just too much responsibility. Same thing happened when Herman Sawanda passed away. Trig was the next technical director. So, you know, from Lukey Lukey to Lameco to Herman Sawanda's method at Mondamuda, you know, and plus he was certified under Paul Dutois and the Batika Nagara and 4 families of Tai Chi. Wow. Trig's combat Tai Chi is just brutally, you know, I mean, you take Anyo Isa and you perform that like Tai Chi, the rolling energy, spiraling, you know, great story. Lukey Lukey got sick at the Water and Steel. He wasn't feeling well. So I said, hey, it's Ted's spot. Do you want to teach it, Professor? And, you know, when you see Professor Trigg, there's two methodologies when you're studying. And I have a real hard time with intellectualizing. I could probably learn better from my wife after the seminar when we get home. And, you know, I don't feel like I'm being observed and critiqued. Or you drop that brow and you go into predator mode. Well, then you're really kind of stealing the show from whoever's presenting curriculum because, you know, you're fired up and you're throwing the game down. So I perform better in predator mode, very reactionary and intentful. So, you know, I filmed this footage at the camp, and I said to Dr. Brett, American Sambo, who was also one of Ramey's students, I said, hey, you know, Dr. Brett, Professor Trigg did some stuff at the camp, and he's like, oh, the sloth. So visualize a sloth, just kind of moving along. Of course, at an Enlosano seminar, you know, Enlosano comes up to his elbow maybe, right? And same with Lukey Lukey, same with Edgar. I mean, Edgar was a thick guy, but he was still short in stature. So I said, well, no, it's a little bit more than that. And so he said, send me the video, VHS at that time. So I sent him the video, and I kid you not, the stamp was barely dry. And that was the first video that, you know, so that would have been 94 or something like that. And that was the first video that Dr. Brett put in. And he just called me up and he goes, mo better. He just couldn't believe how fast Trigg was. And he went from boxing, shutting this guy down. He smacked Rain Golf so hard upside the head that his hair he had long hair. His hair was totally out to the side, and somebody got a still photo of that. And then he dropped down into a foot trap and caught the guy with a knee slap to the knee. Well, Rain went down, his foot came over the top, and he wears a size 18, 19 shoe. And one of the camps, he forgot his shoes while he was loading the car. And so he said, hey, maybe your wife could help me find a pair of shoes. He had flip-flops on. And I was like, well, chances that's not going to happen. And don't worry about your shoes. Just go to your neighbor's house. They're probably turned into planters on their front porch, you know. So, but yeah, you know, that guy he can move, man. He can move. And there's that little clip on my page where Paulo filmed him. And, you know, he'll just kind of majestically follow through, and next thing you know, that stick's coming out and he's, cutting through, ripping through the air. I mean, yeah, you're jumping back a foot when that guy comes at you.
Cool. All right, so from the Philippines, I think.
Yeah.
Pugay Po, and then Danny Terrell, Coach Trigg, coaches the boxing with the Thai Boxing Association camps, and then Rocky's got a couple here. So he goes, Greg Allen was the great guy. He and Al McCluskey, Tom Bizio, Jim Burchill. Man, those were the days. So many new guys, haven't ever heard of those guys. Yeah. And then Kelly, have you ever heard of a James DeMille?
Of course.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. No, he was actually Jesse's student. He wasn't Bruce's student. Bruce hesitated to really be close with DeMille because DeMille was a Navy boxer. He was very skilled. Ed Hart, Bruce's second student, was also a boxer, but he was from the back east type of thing. And he actually, Ed's passed away, but he beat somebody pretty bad. He thought he killed him, so he jumped in his car and he drove to the West Coast. Couldn't get away with that shit today, but I understand why he's running. My brother did the same thing, he went AWOL because he beat the shit out of a commanding officer and got here. And then he beat the shit out of a couple guys, and that turned into some more problems. So, but that'll be all in my memoirs.
There you go.
Names have been changed to protect the guilty.
There you go. So we're coming up on the hour marker. So first of all,
you can have 15 more minutes. I already talked to the guys.
Well, the other thing too is, would you like to be back on the show again?
Oh yeah, man. There's all kinds of stuff to talk about.
Let's not worry about jamming stuff in there. So Ty, why don't we ask one more question? You got to have a good one there.
I do have one. Yeah.
Kelly, have you heard of Bruce C. Terrell of Wu Ying Tao?
Sure, of course. Bruce was around for a long, long time, and I knew a lot of guys from that system. And they were either a variation of the Kaji Kembo, and Bruce has written several books, I believe, but I also believe that was where Dan Anderson studied when he was younger. Okay. So, but yeah, he was out of Portland area, and cool. Again, there's just so many people to kind of keep an eye on, and
evidently,
that type of stuff.
Eric has studied with him as well, so that's cool.
Bruce, yeah.
So, Ty, why don't you ask why don't we do this? We'll ask the last question of the evening. Sure. Then we'll talk about if you got anything you want to promote, and then I'll give you a holler tomorrow, and then maybe we'll figure out a good time for a part 2 conversation.
Sure.
The time been blown by pretty fast, but it just occurred to me there was one that I wanted to ask earlier when we were talking about starting with Remy and things like that. I know at some point he didn't go that often out to the Pacific Northwest out there, and I'm wondering, what was the time spread and how often, and then when and why, or do you know anything about how that petered out?
Oh gosh, well, I would say, I started with him in 1983. So he was coming in at least a couple years prior to that. Of course, early or late 70s was when Ernesto rolled in. And, I really intended to get with Professor Trigg and get some closer things. And that's something. Trigg's been having some medical challenges, and again, he doesn't make that public. That's why he missed camp last year. So when I talked to him about 3 weeks ago, prior to us discussing the show, he'd been to the ER about 4 times, and he's ex-military, so having problems with the Veterans Administration, and as a lot of people have. So he's anticipating a couple different surgeries, and so that's kind of a concern. What's up, buddy? The staffy's jumping on me. He's like, hey, it's time to get out in the gym. He's the gym dog. He's out there getting his attention. But I'd say Ramey probably 94 or something like that. So hey, here's a good political shit in the pants type of story. He had a camp up in Canada. I was already the Datu. I was going to California. Jose Bueno was the guy out of California, and Dan Verdugo, and a few other guys down there. I'd have to go back into the notebook, find them all. But so I was going to California, I was going to Oregon, and I was going up to Canada. And so I roll up with my daughter, who was probably 2 or 3, and Laura at that time. She was a pretty great, talented practitioner as well. So who's there but Dan and Jose and Shashir. And next thing you know, we're filming. It's raining like hell. It's muddy, everything else. But it was time to kick the shit out of Datu Kelly. So I get out there and I'm doing some stuff. And he's like, Datu, do this, do this, do this, do this to Freddie, do this to, David. Next thing you know, now you guys do it to Datu. Oh, okay. Well, how's this working? These guys are my students too. And now they're grinding me into the dirt. And then Ramey does the same thing. It's all being filmed. And I hey, then there was a meeting. And I'm the one that's getting through. I'm stealing people's students. Well, hold it. You promoted me to Datu, right? And so if they're not respecting it, why ain't they supporting it? If I'm kind of the senior guy, maybe they should be coming in and supporting it. Instead, they're trashing me every which way they can. And so him and I had a conversation, and I just said, hey, you know what? I'm fucking done with this. So I'm walking out. When I see these fucking people, I'll kick their asses. Maybe you should kick my ass too. And so it got pretty heated, and so this would have been 92 or 93, right about then. I was teaching military off and on anyway, but that's when Full Contact came out. Okay. And so now I'm right, time is a little bit of time has passed. We haven't been talking, and I haven't been promoting Modern Arnis. I just been doing my own thing. I did my first 8-tape video series, Slam and Jam. Some people had something to say about that. Well, that's Ramey's stuff. I goes, well, yeah, of course it is. Also Cooey's stuff. And then it's probably enhanced with the Mad Hatter's stuff. I mean, I was definitely kind of considered, off the chart, and, kind of a loose cannon. I can admit that. No, jeez, that's how you grow up in Tacoma. Roll on in, boys. I'll still take you for a roll around the block, But so I was doing some advertising and Inside Kung Fu for the Silent Fighter for my videos, things like that. And Ramey never threw me under the bus. As a matter of fact, he sent guys like Dan McConnell to me. Dan was a rescue worker, fire department lieutenant. He knew that he needed knife skills, so he was still pushing me and promoting me. Then out of the blue, I called him up one night, found out where he was, and he says, oh my God, I'm alone in my hotel, and I'm lonely, but you called me. I've been thinking of you. And then I went to the next seminar, and I walked in, kneeled down on the ground like I was going to get decapitated. And he's like, no, get up, not here. I was pissed at you. I was really pissed at you, but not now. You did this all on your own. You didn't ride my coattail. you are the Datu. And, you know, it was one of those things. So, you know, and then, you know, so the best thing I ever did, you know, like a fight with your parents or something like that. And the best thing I did was resolve that relationship long before he passed away. And then Roland Dantes and I were probably the two people that were really there all the time for Ramey when he was up in the care facility. And, you know, so, I mean, I was with the 1st Special Forces at that time, and I was taking as many weekends as I could to make that trek up there and spend that time with them. And, you know, so, yeah, we had our disagreement, and, but, you know, and they all said that too. It wasn't about us. It was about others. But, you know, and so that was why you're shaking your finger, Tim. That sound familiar?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I didn't want to make this a political thing, but I'm going to throw some, since the fire's already started.
Sure, yeah.
Why not throw some gasoline on it?
Well, the issue with politics is, you know, of course, there's two sides to the story, but at the same time, there's a clarity on what truly is going on.
I think there's the third side, because I think you found out when you talked to Chad about you, me, and somebody else. There's your side, there's my side, and then there's the ass clown side from the outside, who's the agitator, taking things out of context, trying to spin people up. Because I think we know people who, you know, here's the thing, and for everyone's listening, Kelly's the kind of guy I like to work with, not because he's Kelly Worden, because of the magazines and all this other shit, because what he just said, he's made his own shit. Everything he's done on his own. He didn't ride the coattails. When I had a problem, when Remy resigned because of his medical condition, I quit the organization because I was a student of Remy's, not a member of the IMAF per se. We were about Remy Praces. And I think most of the people had that direct relationship. I'm not going to get into what happened there, but what I'm doing today, I built my school, I built my organization, and I didn't do it with someone helping me in that kind of manner. I made my own thing, and that's the kind of people I like to work with. Kelly's always been his own man. He's always done this stuff. I don't need people from the side, you know, people that are crying, complaining, and saying, oh, this, that, and the other thing, that are doing nothing. Okay, well, I do social media stuff. Okay, well, what's that turning into? I write books and do videos. I do this. What's that turning into? Kelly's got a solid organization with numbers that is international, and it's because of the work he's put in, where a lot of other people just, you know, it's like crabs. When you go to Chinatown, why is the top of the container always open? Because the crabs in the bottom, while one's trying to get up and out, the other one pulls them down. And that's not what Kelly's done. Kelly's said, screw you, I'm going to do my own thing. And I like that. And these are the kind of people that I like surrounding myself with as a whole. And if more people took this work ethic, we would be in so much better place. So that's my little rant. So we've got a guy, Fart Like the Wind, who's he's the masked comedian. Hey, Guts. It must be guys.
Guys, yeah.
Hope you all well. Me pissed, lost my good kid to travel hockey 4 days a week. Boo. Okay. Yeah, it happens. Grandmaster Unyo from the Philippines says hello. Greetings, sir.
Yep.
Maganda umaga. And then here we go, Rocky. Here we go. Boom, 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 boom. Wow. Kelly sounds like you and I have very similar relationships with the old man. Fortunately, you made up with him. I envy you for that. Okay. And then last few times we spoke, it was more cussing and screaming. Really sucks because he was close to he was so close to my dad. And then Mr. Benko, what a great show. I learned so much tonight. Thank you. And on that note, and then of course one of our guys says, hello guys. Okay. Hello Datus and PG Tye. We'd love,
there are 2 DVDs I did with Roland Dantes. Now he was with me out at Fort Lewis. I'd take him to Special Forces training, and he would literally talk because his dad was a 4-star general in Cebu region, and so he would talk to the troops and tell them stories about General MacArthur and all Filipino history from the Philippines and the tribal aspect.
Nice.
But we did a show right after Ramey died at Bullseye Shooter Supply. I was teaching there. That's where Muhammad and Melville stole the Beltway sniper rifle. So that was Brian Borgelt, my student, owned that store. It wasn't his fault that two guys came in and stole the rifle. Can't even go into all the details with that. But we did a show right after Ramey had passed talking about anting. Rosemary called prior to that and told Roland, you need to take it. Of course, all this was going on in Tagalog, and Roland did this. We did the whole interview thing, and Roland was crying. Ramey was like, you take this, and then later Rosemary told me in San Francisco that it was a friend of her cousin's, the holy man, and he was still alive at that time. I could get you anting too. But Roland, I remember, he didn't want it. I don't want it. Boy, I mean, very guttural yelling between both of them. But that's an interesting DVD. I never released it publicly or anything, but some people have access to it. I make it available to some people. So that's a interesting story about the anting. And a lot of people say that Ramey didn't have that, but he did.
All right. So and for those who want more information on Mr. Worden here, by all means, here I just put on your tag here below, and I sent a link out on us, www.wardendefense.com. All right, make sure to check out stuff. He's got a huge library of videos. The Water and Steel Camp is Labor Day weekend. There is right now, there's pre-registration is open today. It's $4.99. I'm looking at the website as we speak.
Sure.
It's $4.99 if you want it, and $9.99 if you don't. So if you don't want to go to camp, send them $9.99. And Kelly, I got $100 of that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Let me see. And here, I'm gonna just pop that up right there.
There you go.
There you go. So,
nice.
Man, I had a good time. I can't wait to get you back on the show. What do you think there, Dr.
No, that'd be great. The time it blew by. So thanks for sharing.
Yep. And here's the thing: we didn't stay much time on how it got up there because he nailed it right off the bat. There really wasn't much. I mean, I don't want to say there's not much to it. Kelly was direct, precise, got the message out, boom, done. And it gave us time to talk about other things, and we can do that with so many other things as well. Here's the thing: we have to respect. I look at everybody out there as a source of information. I know that every time I saw a professor, I learned something new, which makes me wonder, how much did I miss? What are the stories? And we have to listen to all the Munongs, the seniors out there, and some are seniors in the way of they are senior technical position, and others are the elders that have been around that may not have taken much of the martial art as a profession. Like some of my guys have seen Modern Arnis in Buffalo, and that's not their profession. But the thing here is they were there with Professor being around, having all personal stories. And anyone who's got any contact with Professor, I want to hear about it. Look at this, 28 people on the show.
Nice.
Watching live, which normally we don't get that much. Maria Aquino says hello from Canada, by the way. I know she's been trying to say, hey, let's how do we get the three Datu to Canada? She's very tenacious. She doesn't take no for an answer. So that's why we don't talk to her.
Sure. Well, there's a lot of great Modern Arnis guys out there. The original guys off the East Coast where Ramey kind of rolled into. Great stories just from those people. Tom Bolden was a great practitioner. Billy Bryant, long ago too. Don't know what happened to him, but hey, he was out there in the beginning. Two guys I really admire is Chuck Goss and Kenny Smith. I had a great seminar with them, and they really like my integration. I'm not a tappy guy. I just engage quickly in close quarter is one of the things I do. So I'm not tied into that. Influences from Bastilio, from Lukey Lukey, Sonny Umpad, Jesse Glover. It's pretty amazing. Jesse would say that Sonny Umpad was Bruce Lee with sticks in his hand. So, and Sonny also came from Ancien Bacan. And, it's just an interesting blend. Wally J said when we were down with the family with Ramey Jr. and Demetrio, Mary Jane, Maria was the only one that didn't show up. So it was Marianne too. So Wally J and Beatrice came in, and and Riddell was there as well. And Wally was like, "Hey man, you're one of the only guys I see that really move like Ramey." I said, "Yeah, in that regard, Imperato had me do a workshop demonstration for him, and he's like, "Oh man, you got Kaji Kembo written all over you." And I spun around kind of in a pirouette, and I says, "Really, what's it say over here? How about this side? What's it say over there?" So I mean, Modern Arnis is the art that's in your art. So with as many different groups that I've taught, their skill, their art, their expression, it's all within Modern Arnis, And I did tell Ramey when we were up at the care facility, when I expressed my años, we did a big demonstration there with Roland Dantes. Ramey was there in the lunchroom with about 100 senior citizens all watching. I said, "That guy right there is world famous. That guy is a movie star," And then I did the demo, and Ramey's like, "Oh my God," I said, "You're like a bird." I said, "Yeah, I get it." I says, "We used to need karate. Filipino martial arts doesn't need karate now. It can be expressed." My belief is the años should be expressed no different than silat. But there are structured hard style silat systems as well. But if you see chamande or something of that regard, or mandamuda even, it is very soft, it's very fluid. And, whereas some kuntao expressions like lanadas is very Shotokan and Shorinru. It was Herman Sawanda that was like, "Oh, silat is in everything." So you're again with that, that Modern Arnis is like that. It integrates almost every art out there, and so that's pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool.
All right, Mamadulai says, "Good to see you from the Philippines."
Oh yeah.
We've got 2 weeks Master Parsons cyber class. Okay, that's good. Good evening, John. Chris Nally says hello from North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. He's everywhere.
All the Datu. Dexter James, man, I'm sorry I missed Datu Kelly talking about adding the adrenaline dump to Modern Arnis. And then good stuff from Kara. Wonderful show. Brian Kanata. Hello, gentlemen. How you doing, sir? I think we'll have to make sure. I will call you later in the week, and we'll make sure that everything's good, and we'll.
Maybe we'll put Dean in between you and me the next time, and see if Dean wants to rock and roll on his side of the radio, and then we'll make it happen. There's plenty of me to go around. I mean, if I actually took some notes, we could, really cover some serious history.
Here we go. Oh yeah.
Why and how it came about. Again, the addition of Jesse Glover and Richard Bastilio. I mean, when I went to Bastilio's, I said to him, I goes, "Why are you bringing me in? You got Guru Dan teaching." And I said, "What's Guru Dan teaching?" "He's teaching knife." I like, "Well, why do you want me to teach?" "Oh, thanks." I mean, I said, "Why do you want me to teach?" He goes, "Because your knife is real." He says, "It's one thing to have the classical approach, but you'll scare the shit out of these guys, and maybe they'll stop playing knife games." I was like, oh, okay. So I didn't make any friends that day, maybe a few, but to say the least, I was pretty much off the hook. And
Nice.
you don't get seminars where you go fuck this guy and throw him into the wall, or pick up a chair and simulate crushing somebody. I mean, if somebody's pulling a blade on you, I mean, where are we at? In a nice padded training facility? No, we're in a bar or something. So spitting tequila in the motherfucker's face and hitting him with his bar stool. I mean, just trying to be honest. But and cussing isn't necessarily everything. But how do you get your adrenaline up? You literally have to become that person, and
hey, by the way,
you become passive. Yeah.
Look who popped on.
Oh, it's
he hacked. Hey. He's a master hacker.
Oh, okay. What's going on, Dean?
How are you, Don? And yes,
I
would love to, just me, you, and Datu, Datu, and PG Tye, whatever is convenient for everybody. I would be humbled and honored.
You want all three of us? Are you nuts?
I don't want to leave anybody out. So I'm just, but yes, I would be humbled and honored to do it. Absolutely.
So you'd have Datu, Doctor, and Dean.
Yeah. No, you should do a double Datu show.
Yeah. I'm telling you, Datu Kelly, we're going to have to talk some 60s muscle cars.
Well, dang. Yeah.
Have to do it.
I just sold my 51 Chevy Coupe, so that was pretty old school, built 292 Muncie 4-speed. Baby blue. It was a bitchin' ride. Yeah, for sure.
Before I got back onto Facebook, I was big in the Oldsmobile war, 442s and W30, W31s.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I was collecting them, parting them out, and then finally my wife one day said, this has got to end. Junk cars were coming in the driveway. I was parting them out, and it just, she put the kibosh.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, my older brother just passed away up in Alaska.
I'm sorry.
I appreciate that. He has over 30 cars on his property. 34 Ford, 36 Ford, 44 delivery, couple Woodies. And unfortunately, he just believed that he wasn't going to pass away, and he was building it up till the day they pulled him out of the shop and, took him to the hospital. A couple days later, he passed away. And, so families got to figure out a way to get all that material, all those cars, and there's 5 feet of snow. There's 5 feet of snow. So, he had on the property, he had his body shop, paint and body. Then he has upholstery shop and his engine and frame. And you tell him what you want. He did a lot of 54, 55 glass top Victorias.
Wow.
Just the guy was just an animal. And his airbrush skills, I did airbrush flames, murals and stuff, but his airbrush skill, he could redo, a Firebird, the Firebird hood thing, but just add complete different games to it. He was really amazing with the old Ratfink and the gear shift coming out the windshield. And he just did all that kind of stuff early on. And just a great technician. So, truly a loss for the custom car world.
No, that's too bad. My father, like you, was into the 50s and 30s. Like he had a 51 Mercury French cut,
Those are bitchin'. I just got, wasn't that long ago, we built my daughter's 51 Ford. It was a 4-door, so took it into the shop and made the rear door suicide, so they were like the Mercury, and dropped it on the ground. It stayed flathead automatic, Same time I had a 2-door 51 that was just stock cherry fat white wall skirts, everything, a little 3-speed flathead. And she was like, oh, we need to do this, we need to do that. That's when we went and found her a 51 so she could we did the flame job and painted it flat black, and then we did it baby blue after that, or robin egg blue, basically. And yeah, so she did the body work with me, and I let her do the paint job on the flames after we laid them out. So yeah, but I'm into the knife making now. See, this one just got done. Here's another one, right? How many Bowies does it take to walk down the streets of Tacoma?
Well, at least 2, it seems like.
Yeah. And then this is a Praesus Damascus.
Nice.
Well, it's actually mosaic. I didn't do the mosaic. There it is. But beautiful stuff with a maple handle. Yeah, so this is a great story. I'll do this one, then I'll close up for you. But
Okay.
I originally done this, and you can see the dip here, and if you look at it, it's just perfect for the Filipino grip, right? But I did it going, not that I was making it for Ramey. I did the knife, and I was like, oh, God, that just looks stupid. And I threw it off onto the side. And I did it with a piece of Devin Thomas Damascus. So I think I paid $200 for that piece of Damascus. And I'm going, oh, yeah, man, I really screwed that up. And then somewhere along the line, I'd been up and seen Ramey for a while. And I was just like, the fucking Filipino grip. And I went back and picked that knife up. And I finished it. Next one we do, I'll pull it out, or I'll send you a picture so you can flash it out. But if you see this profile here, it's kind of like there's a forehead and a chin or a nose, and then down here into the mouth. And when I filed it, I notched it here and I notched it there. I did some filing. And literally, it's got the silhouette of a woman on it, right? Kind of a soft feature of a female. And so anyway, I took it up to Professor, and, nobody had told him he was going to die. He really felt that he was going to recover. And, so I just said, well, he started, I said, hey, Professor, I want to present this knife to you for you. And he goes, oh, well, we call it Bariktaran. And I thought that was kind of a cool name. And Roland Dante says, well, he started snickering. He goes, well, no, in the Philippines, those are lesbian movies. And I was like, what? Okay, well, we're not going to do that. And then he says, Doblada. And I like that too, double. And so I thought, Doblada, that's a cool name. And I said, well, how about if we call it the Praesus Legacy? I said, steel will outlive us all. And I was kind of hinting to him. I pulled my knife out. I said, this is the Worden Wartac, and, steel outlives us all. In 100 years, they'll see this knife, and it's the Praesus Legacy. And he says, and I said, 100 years, they'll just know that knife, man, that was a badass dude, the professor, And he goes, you do that for me? I goes, yeah, of course. How does that sound? The Praesus Legacy. Oh, my God. And he wouldn't let go of it. But there was only one. I had to take it back home with me, on that note, I did take a sword up into Victoria and presented to him, put it in his casket. And that was at the funeral. And, we carried it on the Victoria Clipper. Had 2 of the SF guys with me. Big old, I look small compared to them. And they didn't say anything. I had a pheasant plume on it and carried it right through. I told them it was a ceremonial blade it was razor ass sharp. And so right after that, 9/11 hit. And they wouldn't let the casket go to the Philippines with the sword in it. So I had to go back to Canada and get the sword. And then that following month and a half, a couple months later, I did the seminar down in San Pablo with the Praesus family, the kids, and Wally J. and Riddell. And so I presented it to them. I said, last person to touch this was your dad. He had passed away, but it was in the casket. So here's a family heirloom. So yeah, we can. There's a picture of that with me and Doug Pierre, because Doug was at the funeral too. So I'll try to, maybe when we do the next interviews, I'll send you some of these pictures, and you could splash them up on the screen or something, like close up of the Praesus knife. And it was actually, the sword was made by Jerry Haslam. I don't know if you guys know who Jerry is, but it's called the Espada. And Jerry had sent it to me after blade testing it, cut through a whole side of beef, bone and all. And he said the blade was stained. Would I like it? You know, it's about a $1,500 or $2,000 blade. I said, sure, Jerry. Blood stains don't bother me.
If you insist.
So yeah. So that was pretty cool.
Cool. So Rocky signs off saying, "Great listening to you guys tonight. You're one of a kind, Kelly." So
well, it's been said before in different ways.
Okay, and on that note, hey, listen. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thank your students for letting us take their time. By the way,
I'm gonna go out there and kick some ass now.
Kelly's supposed to be teaching right now, and made sure that he had time to share with us. So
thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelly.
No sweat, guys. Sounds good. All right, Dean. We'll talk soon.
No, absolutely. I'm going to send you a message, and whatever works for you guys. If you guys want to do it on a Monday night, that's fine. A Thursday, whatever you guys want to do, I'll make it happen.
You guys, we'll work it out.
Yeah, sure, man. Okay, cool.
All right.
Now, how do you shut this off?
I'll take care of it.
There you go.
I'll kick him from the studio. There you go. And Kelly's out.
That was cool.
Thank
you. Hey, Dean, how you doing?
Good. Thank you for bringing me on. Thank you.
So really, okay, guys, I'm gonna give everyone, here's the skinny, by the way. And we had 31 people on that last portion live.
That's good.
So really, what happened is this was a free agency year, and I picked up Dean's contract, and FMA discussion has lost Dean in the draft.
I'm a free agent.
He's a free agent.
Yep.
Jeez, I am. I'm a free agent. And,
retirement is just your next job.
That's just it. And so what I'm doing is, we might as well just let the cat out of the bag since Datu Tim brought it up. But why I am going to be doing just a couple shows and every discussion a month, I am going to be on FMA Talk a lot.
There you go. Go for it. Yeah.
But that has nothing to do with his backing away. Listen, we just do this show once a week, and we take weeks off. And I love these last 2 weeks were amazing. I mean, when
you get a couple good ones and you get that momentum going, man.
Last week when we did the Dean is now traveling. Exactly. That's another thing. So
nice, yeah.
It was rough because when we did the last show of yours, it was rough because we had the time zone debacle and all this other stuff. When you're on the road, you shouldn't have to be thinking. You shouldn't even think about it. You should have just sat there and said, "Can't do it until you got back."
No, but you know what it was? No, I was totally fine with it. I wanted to make that happen with you guys. I would have felt bad if
we could have done it another time. But see, this is it. Now, I do this once a week, and we're going to take we're going to be taking at least 1 week off. And I feel that it is I don't want to say it's a chore, but it is part of my job because I don't want to just phone it in. Listen, what we're doing tonight, that's the easy part. But what I got to do is I got to draw up a flyer. I got to run people through a thing. So right now, today I had Grandmaster. I want to see if I can pronounce his name right. Carlos. That was the easy part. Patalinghug. So he is a student of. Oh, did you get a hold of Don Cuesta?
No, my God. And
so he's a student of Don Cuesta, and that's why this is the guy I sat on the testing board. He's going to be on our show on the 27th. So today we did a test run. So for those who are going to be on the show, what I do is I have a test run that it doesn't go public because it's just to make sure you know the software. And to be honest with you, I mean, I'd rather just make a thing in the morning. Like today, what I did is I went online and go, hey, by the way, just as a quick reminder, I've got Datu Kelly Worden coming on the show tonight, blah, blah, blah. You know, last week, I try to do that. Either I'll make a post or I'll go live. But I mean, really, and just doing it one day a week is a lot of effort. And Dean was doing show. I mean, sometimes you were doing 2 shows in a day.
Well, so sometimes what would happen, not with intention, you know, we would have, as everybody knows, we have a few moderators and having a discussion. So Tom and Brian sometimes would coordinate interviews, and you know, nobody's fault. It happens. There'd be miscommunication, and before you know it, we got a double header. And so instead of canceling a disappointing guest, we would just run. Now that hasn't happened a lot.
Yeah.
And we would just
and you know, with your show, a lot of the major, like we talked about this, we have more viewership on the front end, and FMA discussion has a lot more viewership on the back end. So what that means is we'll have more live interaction on average, but we have nowhere near the views afterwards on YouTube.
Well,
yeah,
somewhere,
I mean, like sometimes
hidden on Facebook too.
in the team, like the other night, what was my last interview I did? Was it you guys, or I'm trying to think?
It may have been when you were in Arizona or New Mexico.
But we were, you know, I was in. If you get into teens, I was in the teen. If you get into teens, as far as live audience, I mean, that's good. It really is. If you
we did high 20s last week. We got in the 30s this week.
Yeah, like
I'm excited. You know, and
like
last week's,
like when I had Ray Dianato, I think we were in the 40s and 50s.
Okay.
I mean, so, you know, depending on, you know, we know it's name based, you know, depending on who you're getting on there. It's just the way it is. Like when I had Brian Canada on, we were in the teens because he was talking about Bowie knife. That just happened to resonate with people. You know what I mean?
Well, I tell you, last week's show was amazing. And that, you know, so interviews versus shows, you know, it's a little different. We had a show, we didn't do an interview. And my goodness, it was amazing. I mean, it just the viewer interaction was. But we went. What we talk about is stick fighting for self-defense. Stupid.
Yeah.
And man, was there? And you know, and here's the thing. You know, I got to. Well, okay. All right. A message came in. Roberto Torres is in the hospital. Was in the hospital. I mean, Roberto Precis was in the hospital. He's out of the hospital right now. I am working on, and his nephew and I have been chatting. Tomorrow, I'm going to be Western Union money over there. I will have information for people that can make donations directly. I do not want to take money from anyone. I've seen in the past where people have taken money, sent it on to people, or take the money and then change the donation where it was going without confirming, and people not getting credit for stuff. So what I'm in the process of doing is make sure this is all good, send the money, do the test run, and then from there I will share that information with people who want to make a donation. Obviously, people will know that I'm helping facilitate, but helping facilitate is different than sending the money. And I just don't trust people. I like to know. My thing is that I'll tell you who to give it to, and that's between you and that person. So if it goes sideways, it's not me. But once again, we're trying to help out the family member. Here we go. And Brian says, I'm still getting questions from that show, Dean.
Yeah. So again, to mention again, like, that show, it was, you know, obviously Brian is well liked, and I can't wait to meet him one day. But just the fact that we had somebody that was thorough, not just in the actual blade, but Brian brought a lot of historical content to that show. It just, people wanted to hear about Bowie knife. We were one time was in the 20 viewers or 10, whatever, but some subject matters, it's just going to really resonate with people. Obviously, it speaks for itself. Big name guest. You know what I mean?
Well, there's some people that I'd love to. There's two names I would love for you to get, and you probably won't know the names, but I think they would be great. They have a lot of good information like that in history, like you said. One of them goes to, well, both of them have been to my events, which you got an invite now too. You saw that, right?
Oh, I know.
did, thank
I know
you.
who you're going to say. I know the one person you're going to say, but he's a little anti-social at the moment.
That's right, right. I won't say it, but I mean, there are people out there like that, and everybody probably, you've been around for a while. You probably know, everybody probably knows at least one of those. How do you get those? How do you get that information out there? That's tough.
No, I know. I mean, like, I've said this before, and I'm not afraid to say it again, regardless of what people think. I've had really big name folks on, and they were okay shows, to be quite honest. I found some of them to be kind of boring. I'm going to be honest. I've had like no name guy, or I hate to say no name, but quote unquote, not as popular.
Not well known, yeah.
Well, and to me, they rocked it. Like their information, the way they came across, just the purity of themselves, the way they express themselves, their candor, their humility, just killed it. I mean,
well, and that's it. I mean, we talk about stuff all the time about martial arts, and we talk about what arts have influence and all this other stuff. And unfortunately, like some arts, like they think they've got more impact, but actually sometimes the smaller arts have more. They overlook the big arts, look over them. Oh, how can you just, because Dose Powers is big, Modern Arnis is big, and all this other stuff. But then you look at something like Serrata, which is not a big art by any stretch of the imagination. It's regional, but man, the community talks about them a lot. And I'm not talking about the political stuff. I mean, Angel Caballos didn't spread the art. It's his students that did the work. But he was a name that's people still talk about today.
Oh,
like Bruce Lee with Jeet Kune Do. Bruce Lee died long before he got good. He was ahead of his time, but he died in his 30s. How good would he have been in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s?
100%. Yeah, especially when you refined and all the other information from the pipeline, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a strange thing. I mean, it's sometimes, and there's certain days you got to get more on the weekend, Sunday. Another thing too, if it's during football season, you run a show on a Sunday. There's certain things if you compete with, then your show's gonna probably not get as many viewers. So there's that scheduling dynamic.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Well, there's the other piece too, is not everyone is going to resonate with different people the same way. So some,
maybe, for instance, we had GM Nene Tortel. Tom did it, and I'm glad he did, because he had, and I'm thinking like, man, this is gonna smash. Like this is gonna be like, the test run was a home run, and it was good. Don't get me wrong, it was really good. But I tell you, I thought it was going to get a lot more hits, to be honest with you. I mean, GM Nene Tortel, I thought he was.
Well, here's the problem. You are, and listen, the three of us are connoisseurs. We do our homework.
Yeah.
I've had Nene at my school. I've taught with him on the floor in Vegas. I get out there. So I mean, if you think about this, if you go to a Taekwondo school, most Taekwondo people don't know much more about what happens outside their school. They know what's in the school.
Correct.
Filipino martial art groups are no different than that.
No. I mean, like
only a couple people actually, if the instructor, him or herself, does not venture outside their training area, what do they know? I mean, I travel all over the place, and I would take my people with me. Yeah. Not everyone's like that.
No, or didn't expose their students, correct? Yeah. Right, or didn't have the interest.
They'll know everything about that particular art, but they won't know squat about anything else.
No, that's a good.
What's Rock you got here? Jim Tacosa was one of the fastest guys I ever dealt with a stick. His Serrata is amazing. He's a tall guy too. If he's still around, you should put him on.
We've tried to get, that name has definitely come up. We've tried, and I'm trying to recall what happened with that, but it's certainly worth trying again. I mean,
I think when it comes to the smaller people, or the less known people, they're more personal. And here's the reason why I think, because like when you're a bigger name, sometimes an entourage forms around them and protects you. The other thing, okay, so listen, we've got all these stories about Remy, and they're true. Okay, Remy would make sure to work the room to say hello to everybody one way or another. And it may have been, oh, you're doing good, and walk on. He still tried to make that interaction.
Yeah, that connection, right? No.
How many people don't go past the first 10 feet of where they're teaching?
Or don't even go in the middle of the floor.
How many people will walk around and work the room and do all that stuff? And the thing here is, because they're not doing that, there might be this perceived barrier, or maybe people are putting a barrier in between the person. So, you know, I've met Inosano multiple times. I had a very good conversation with him one time, but I don't find him to be as personal as Remy was. And it's not that he's not a nice guy.
Right.
But I also think, like, one of the guys that we used to always hang out with at one of these events was Michael Jai White. And some people say, oh, he's the guy who played Spawn and Brass Tiger. And he goes, you know, I know my friend, my brother from another mother, Carl, who's Bayesian. Like, he's a stuck-up guy of color. I'm like, dude, you're a guy of color. Well, I know better. I'm like, that's why I know. And I'm like, and then I talk to people who are around. I'm like, no, he is shy and makes him socially awkward, and a lot of times perceived as arrogance or whatever. It's like he just doesn't. He's good at what he does, and working in the room isn't that thing. You know. Here we go. Guru Dan is very shy. All right, I haven't said much. Okay, so listen. Mr. Wind, I didn't bring a lot of your comments in play because I don't know if Kelly would have gotten that. At the buffet, I try to say hi to everyone. Okay. You know, you know, then here's it. I do not have the test just run. Okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh no, he had a good one. So then here's the one I'm going to share, because we were talking about old cars and all this other. So I drove my Chevy to the levee, but soon I'm going to be a Jedi. So I normally would have shared those, but I don't know if Kelly, I don't know how Kelly would have taken all that. And it's our first interaction.
No, I know. And you start, and you want to, like, where somebody else who's.
Oh, no, well, there was definitely people that caused trouble between Kelly and I haven't always gotten along. And
I think it's great that you had him on and you two have put that behind you.
Well, we've talked since, and other peoples have talked to him. And here's the thing: we have friends in common, and somebody went and talked to him for me. Not I didn't send him, but on my behalf, talked about a couple situations, and it turned out that other people were twisting things and telling.
No way, people wouldn't do that.
Yeah. So the thing here is this:
divide and conquer.
Everything they said was true, but not told in the proper context.
Right, not told in the context and all that. You know, here's the thing. Here's my, while we're on this subject, and this is just my opinion. Outside of murder, rape, or a crime, like that. Where it's not a violent crime against somebody, I feel like if there's two working parties, things can be, generally speaking, can be patched up. I mean, outside of a personal crime against you or your family, you know what I mean? So when people get on these, like, oh, I'm never talking to him again over something that is repairable, you know what I mean? And if we're not talking an excessive amount of money and all that. And so I just think some people, they just don't want to be bothered. They don't care. They don't want to put the effort in. And what they'll also do is, much like what seems like what happened in respects to you and Datu Kelly, they'll actually add fuel to the fire, on the back end. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then I know that's happened in Modern Arnis.
Yeah. It happens everywhere. I mean, when the head guy dies, shit happens. I mean, that's in every system out there. For me, I don't work with when I say community, I mean the leadership community or perceived leadership community, more the leaders and the influencers at best. I did the reunion camp, the 10-year reunion camp, and everyone showed up. And so I invited everybody. A couple of people chose not to show up, but they were all invited, which some people were shocked. I go, well, Jeff Delaney wasn't there. You didn't invite him. I go, no, I invited him. He didn't want to be there. I invited Remy Jr. He didn't want to be there.
I I like that when people put it on them, right? So it's one thing to be left out of everything or not mentioned, but there's a whole other thing. Hey, invite, and then they decide to come. That's
on them. Right.
That's a better way to do it, I think.
I mean,
Yeah,
what I did was
totally
like,
agree. This way, you can't look back and say like,
no,
well, you left somebody out. No, I didn't.
and here's the thing: I remember we had changed the dates because there was a schedule conflict. So I announced the camp 2 years in advance, and I go, "Oh, listen, I got to push it back 1 or 2 weeks, something like that." Does everyone okay about that? Okay. Well, Jeff Delaney initially told me he couldn't do it because there was a schedule conflict because it's always near a certain event that he did. I go, I reached out to him again. He never got back to me because if he truly chose not to do this because of the schedule conflict, if moving the date, which we did, change things, he needs to be invited again. Now, some people are like, you already asked him. You shouldn't invite him again. I go, but he told me this date was bad. Now it's a new date. Well, he said no. I go, you really don't, you know, and people that by the way. But I'm like, come on, you should know better. Because I don't want someone coming back who said, Tim, you said it was the 5th. Well, I did, and I changed it to the 15th. Well, if I knew it was the 15th, I could have made it.
Right.
You know, so I don't want that coming back on me. I mean,
definitely.
Because I wanted everybody there. But
well, it's just not right too. Not let alone the coming back to. It's just not right to do it that way. So yeah, you did it right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But of course,
like Ty said, you put it in their court, and it's ultimately up to them, right?
Now, for the most part, most of the people I don't want to work with anymore because the only times they showed up was when my wallet was open, and once there was no reciprocation.
When you were handing out Ben Franklin's, right?
Oh yeah. Well, here's the thing. This is how I am. I did the reunion camp. The reunion camp gave Michael Bates the ability to do his Hall of Flame. It gave Dieter the ability to do the East meets West, which then went the best of the West, the best of the West, best of the East, then East meets West, a whole series of events because we did this in Buffalo. Kelly comes into my office Dieter comes into my office while the camp's going. He goes, "Hey Tim, I want to do this." So he's trying to pitch me the idea of the best of the West, and he goes, "So Tim, I'm going to do this. I'll be there, but we're going to do all this other stuff, and I'm going to do it like this and da-da. I'll be there." I'm like, Dieter, stop. You trusted me and came over from Germany to my event. You're damn right I'm going to show you support. If it was just you and me and no one else showed up, I'd be there because you flew over for me, and I'm going to do the same for you because I believe in reciprocating.
There's a show, reciprocation and support.
Oh,
no wonder why we're in the backyard basement.
Here's another one. I was supposed to do a tour in Europe, 3 countries. The first one, it was all based on me going to Italy. The host died. The host literally died. So then Poland backed out because they couldn't float it. I was just about to pull the trigger on not going to Germany because Dieter and I were doing the double Datu. And Noah. Well, you know John Escudero, right?
Correct.
His sister-in-law. I want to say that's Noah. She had just bought the tickets to go to Germany for me to teach there with Dieter. And she messaged me. I'm like, oh shit. Well, I'm going. Because here's someone there. She booked a trip from Israel to Germany. And it's like, there's no way I can't go now.
Yeah.
I mean, in the worst case scenario, I'll break even. Who cares? And then we actually ended up talking about it because she and I were busting each other's chops, and she goes real far. So I went far and she didn't like me making certain comments. And finally I go, Dieter, tell her why I'm here. Well, he's here because of you, because you bought your ticket, and he was going to back out. And then, I was like, Jim, I love you. I go, yeah, okay, I know. Not love it like that because you're married, so we got to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, I digress. Yeah, reciprocation is a big one. There's a lot of ways you can reciprocate too. It doesn't have to be support. Support goes in a whole bunch of different ways.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That's the key word is support.
Spreading it. I mean,
oh my God. Look at Jack Latour, how much he says about me in a positive way. He's constantly sharing my events. I don't ask him to do that.
No, I know. He's really good at that, like sharing people's event. Yeah.
Well, Tim gave me a lot of help at the beginning of getting out there. I go, yeah, I know.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
But yeah, I don't hold that over you. You don't have to do this the rest of your life. He just likes, he's always offering because, You got to know me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Same thing happened with me. You know what I mean? Yeah. So.
Well, we're regretting that one, but we can work on that.
Well, I really appreciate that.
How the hell did I get him in the free agency draft thing here?
I had a contract dispute.
Okay.
And I declared myself a free agent.
There we go. That's our reciprocation is and support. There we go. Listen, and when we talk about people on the shows, this is one thing I want to throw out there. It's probably come up a few times. Remember that FMA discussion for the discussion group on Facebook is not the same as the show.
They're separate entities.
Two completely separate entities.
In fact, the show existed before the group.
Yes.
I had the show. I want to say I had a handful of interviews, and then I said, hey, when I start this group where I'll library the videos there that I ran, and then it just grew and all that. But originally, my intention was to put the live videos there from YouTube. And not that it would be this group that is today. I did not foresee that.
Yeah. So if you had a problem with something on there, unless it was directly with Dean, don't blame Dean for that shit. I know some people have thought about they left the discussion group. They don't want to do the show and all this other stuff. And I've since then. Why?
It's been few and far between. Like we've only had a few people that have not wanted to do on the show, and generally speaking, I've known the reasons even before they said no.
Yeah, well, I think some of the people that are saying no would never want to be on there in the first place. It had nothing to do with.
That's my whole point. The people that have been disgruntled with the group is definitely a separate issue, and a lot of that is because we don't let it be a playground. Well, you know what? Fine. Go find yourself a place where you can act like a fooligans and talk to each other how you want, and that's okay. And that has actually been few and far between. Matter of fact, one of the comments that we received a lot that really resonated with folks is that they could go there, express themselves without being attacked. And if they were attacked, it was immediately dealt with.
Then there you go. Yeah.
Right.
No.
Yeah, well, so even if you have a Facebook group and you start it with one reason, it still has its own legs. I mean, I started Arnis Exploration with just the idea of connections to modern Arnis, and it's sort of grown from them. We still try to keep the same kind of, like you said, the feel for, hey, this is a place where we're talking about this subject and all the things related to it, but not for politics or picking on people or anything like that. Yeah,
exactly.
Cool. But it still has its own legs.
Yeah. So, who I should have, well, no, it was too many people tonight. I should have thrown one out to Danny. That would have been fun.
There you go.
So, hey, but as far as what you guys want to do, I'll send Datu Kelly. I had all intentions of bringing him on. I wanted you guys to bring him. And then, of course, I had a few others, but he was definitely on the list to bring on as far as the whole Modern Arnis theme episodes. Mm-hmm. However, though, if you guys want to do it together, I'm fine with that as well. So I know Monday nights.
Let me say this here. I didn't put you on today to be on any show with you. I put you on today because I know you've been trying to connect with Kelly and there was the opportunity.
Yeah. No,
I'm all in. Anything that promotes the art in a positive manner, I'm in.
Well, yeah, like I know Monday nights are the only night work for you. So if you want,
well, no. Monday, I can change nights.
Right.
If you're talking about all three of us, Monday's when we choose to do our show.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
so I could do another night. Actually, starting after this week, my Tuesdays and Thursdays are free for the next month. Now, I am leaving on the 15th for Florida for a week and a half, but so it does chop into 3 of those days. But I got 8 Tuesdays and Thursdays I'm free after.
The thing is, what nights does he teach?
Well, obviously tonight.
I enjoyed the visit with him, but I think if you want to do it, I think maybe it might sell or might be a good track just to have a double Datu thing. I don't need to be involved. I mean, I had a great visit, and I'm looking forward to the next.
All right, like I said, I'm not going to intentionally leave anybody out. So.
No, I get that, but you see what I'm saying? I think that would be a good focus because of the history there.
Yeah, you know what? We could do that. As a matter of fact, yeah, obviously, if he was teaching tonight, I don't know. I'll send him a message to just see what his schedule is. I can't imagine. He's teaching.
He was very comfortable. I'd never met him before and talked with him, and it was just like, very comfortable and welcoming. So I really
I had him on. I want to say it might be, you know what? It's definitely at least a year and a half ago we had him on, and he killed it. I mean, it was a great show. He did a demo about his wrench. I mean, a couple other things. I mean, the crowd loved it, the audience. And so, I'm more than happy to do it again. So what I'll do is I'll send him a message and just see what nights he's not teaching or when he's, I guess, done, since he's 3 hours behind us.
I mean, generally speaking, I'm all down with all four of us doing it with you, or all three of us together, all four of us doing it, period. It is a little rough because, like, when we did the show the other week, and it was
no. When you get more into
because we're listening to Chad talk, then I'm listening to Ty talk, and by the time I'm talking, there's nothing left.
I know. It's a juggling act. I believe me. I know. And if you're the host, you're trying to give everybody, equity as far as time and all that. It could be very, very tricky.
No, I get it.
But Ty was suggested that we do a double Datu.
Well, here's my suggestion. You've got the three of us to access anytime you need to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not anytime. But have your topic. I mean, because maybe the topic you choose maybe doesn't fly for me because I might not have the experience in that. Maybe something would be better suited for, like if we're talking like the three of us versus the two of us, maybe some things Ty might be better suited to do with Kelly than me and vice versa. So
like the internal connection,
there's that,
Yep.
Oh, you know what? We could, that's an idea. Yeah.
So, there's a whole bunch of options there. So
maybe what I'll do is first find out his schedule. That's probably the first thing to tackle.
And figure out what you want to talk about, and then see how relevant that is for all three of us. I mean, listen, I think having the three. Well, there was that other group we talked about, and I was willing to be part of it. Actually, you wanted to have four of us on.
That would have been
and they chose not to, and that's on them.
Yep.
Okay, so the thing here is now. Kelly says he's more than happy to do a show with you, and we already talked about possibly all of us being on that show.
I'm fine with all of you guys. Yeah.
So you can easily do something there.
I've had experience hosting.
If it comes to like, hey, we need to do a part 2, let's talk more about the internal. We could do that. If there's a part 3, maybe it's more Tim and whatever. I mean, man, how come we're planning all these shows and you retired from it?
Well, no, I'm still not. I'm nowhere doing as. I jammed out a bunch in February just so it'd be easy street from this period on. So now I can kind of
you have things that you wanted to work on still while you're on FMA with FMA.
Yeah, but now I can hand pick. You know what I mean?
Okay, cool.
So, you're emeritus.
Yes. And free agent.
Yep.
You all are awesome. I appreciate all you do.
Thank you. That's nice.
The check is in the mail, Eric.
Well, that's Eric. Okay. It's the guy who's always at the gym, but actually decided to show up tonight. Right. Then Kara says good night.
Hey, Kara.
And then continuation of what the future of Modern Arnis.
Yep.
You know what?
That was the goal with the 4. So what we can do is we can just certainly, what we do. We can tie that into whether when we all go on Kelly. I mean, Kelly can give us his perspective on the future.
Because here's the thing. All right, so this will be since it's on our show, I'm going to make the comments. We can talk about what events we've hosted. Mm-hmm. We could talk about what we're doing on social media.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing here is, okay, I've hosted X amount of events. I've got 25,000 views on this for this, and I got 25,000 views on that. How many students have we produced? How is this? Okay? So, the problem is you were getting Chris off so you can get the second portion of that, and maybe that show would have been better if we did 2 separate shows and Chad and Ty and I did a completely show.
The reason why I did that was because I didn't have enough content to run a show with just knowing Chris.
I think we could have, but I would have. What I would have done is I would have asked them tough questions from my point of view, because I had already planned. I wasn't sure what you were going to have me do, because one of the first things I would have sat there, and I thought it was a little aggressive on certain points. I'm like, because the question is, well, according to Datu, people, if they didn't follow this curriculum, I go, well, listen, if Remy promoted you to black belt, you would go up on the wall.
Done deal.
Done deal. It's RPC, Remy Pracer certified.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that boom, that's an easy one. What I'm saying is, a lot of times the art within your art people don't know the whole system because they just cherry pick what they want. Ty and I did this as a standalone program. We didn't cherry pick shit. Remy made us do everything. But I know people that didn't do the forms. And
to me, see, and again,
well, they were cross trainers. Simple as that. Cross trainers. Yeah.
But
and they don't want to say it that way.
No, I know. But what really brought out to me what kind of ignited the question to me for the show, like, what is Modern Arnis, is that when we started diving deep into that, it got me thinking, like, well, gee, are there folks out there that are quote unquote ranked, certified, however you want to word it, in Modern Arnis, but perhaps don't really have like a lot of material, but just by virtue of the secondary or tertiary program. And that really drew an interest in me.
Okay.
Not for bad reasons or not for exploitation, but more or less just curiosity. Like, did these folks know that? Were they aware of that? Or were they just victim of circumstances? You know what I mean?
Okay. All right. You asked it. Right, you asked it. Here we go. Here's the answer. No, they don't know that. And 95,
so it's not their fault.
95.
You don't know what you don't know.
That's what I mean. We can't fault them.
But what I can fault is people not listening when we're trying to explain this to people.
Yeah, but I hear what you're saying, Doctor. But here's the thing, though. If you don't know what you don't know,
it's Tim, right?
I mean,
come on. How talk on the phone? It's Tim. God damn you.
But how are they gonna? But in other words, if they don't know what they don't know, and it's not their fault, and then they hear you trying to explain all that, it doesn't mean like they're just not listening to you. They might not understand what you're trying to convey. You know what I mean?
Well, some of it is. I get it. You always love your teacher. You always love your father.
That's what I mean, right? It's for loyalty.
But at the same token, if we're talking logic, okay. And we said when people started talking about the art within your art, it's like what the question was, well, if Modern Arnis is red, well, why is Modern Arnis red? Isn't it a synthesis? I go, it was a program that, and this is another topic we should have on another show, but Remy put all this shit together, and whatever he put together, like Jeet Kune Do, what Bruce Lee did, that's what the art is. Now, I'm pretty sure Inasano still teaches the core art that BruceLee presented.
Oh, I'm sure he does. Yeah.
But he added to it because it evolved. Bruce died way before his time. And
definitely
he was, and I'll be the heretic. He was nothing compared to what his potential was, because he died way too soon.
I mean, Ted Wong is the one that kept it kind of, the fencing, boxing. Yeah. I mean, John. I mean, absolutely.
Or was it Jerry Petit?
Jerry Petit.
Jerry Petit. He was another guy who wanted to keep it the way he learned it, whatever that
era was. If you wanted Dan, forget it. You got you got the conceptual, right?
But I'm pretty sure that Guru Dan still teaches the fundamentals.
Oh no, absolutely.
In the academy, which is, by the way, should there be an academy? Well, in Jeet Kune Do, which is a lot like Modern Arnis, they have an academy. Yeah. But the thing here is this: 95%. I would say 95%, at least 95% of Remy's people learn it as the art within your art. And that's most of them,
point. Like, there's probably a lot of people out there that think they have this, but really they don't. No fault of their own. You know
well, I mean? here's what I would question people: you passed the test, so you had to go through the curriculum. Are you showing everything that you had to do to pass that test? And in the same way that Remy did, or did you just add, like Eric Alexander reached out to me, Ty's teacher, because what's his name? The guy, Massachusetts Camp Post. He blended it with Richard Roy. Richard Roy did a great job of hosting camps. And when he was asked to teach Modern Arnis, to people is that I blend it with as much Arnis or much Tai Chi as possible. Right. You go, but that's not what Remy taught, and people wanted what Remy
that's gotta
taught.
be that's gotta be an eclectic blend, man. You got Tai Chi.
Well, and it works, but so here's the thing I came up with recently, that it was just the way I kind of expressed it was, a lot of people went with make it your own, and that's great.
Yeah.
But I want to make it my own from what Remy had.
The core
from anybody else's one.
You want to make it your own from the core.
Right. So you have the original DNA sample, and then you know.
All right,
so
here's my question.
So otherwise I would be following these other people.
No, and I get this. I get what you guys are saying. So here's my question.
Yep.
Okay.
How many people, whether it was a secondary program or a tertiary program, we definitely got to do another show on this. How many people, whether if it's 95%, if it's 88%, whatever, how many people that for absolutely sure got the core?
I know they all were exposed to the core. If they became black belts,
they got it. Regardless, it was a secondary, tertiary.
I would say 5% at most.
Huh?
I would say if we're talking about got the core in its entirety,
and
I would say worked it probably 5%.
If that,
you see my point.
Yeah.
If it's at that 95% of the quote unquote make the art with the art or the secondary art, if you're saying let's say 10% for argument's sake, if you're saying that 10% got the core, there's a lot of folks out there think they have and they don't. So that to me I find fascinating. That you
like Brian. I like your point there too. I didn't want to before it disappeared, Brian.
Yeah, go ahead. You read that.
Oh yeah, Brian. So Brian said that they might also think, Tim, you are shooting for some power grad type BS. There's so many con men out there that if they don't know, they might place you in that category. We've talked about this before.
Well, listen. Okay, so Brian, you may not have heard this, so I'm gonna list my credentials quickly that others don't have, and Ty can call bullshit. I mean, I had the only full-time academy while Remy was, or at the end of Remy's. There was 3. Rocky Passwick was first. John Bryant was second. Mine was the last. I was the only one that had an active academy when he passed. I produced 31 Modern Arnis black belts, which most people didn't produce any black belts, all the way up to third degree. Third degree would have been I've got multiple third degree black, and it's black belt, then first degree. I have multiple third degree black belts. Who was a third degree black belt at the time before the tumor took an effect? Kenny Smith, Jim Lattis, Bruce Chu. All 3 of these guys. These are just 3 people that people may have known that were just. I was producing students the same degrees as these people.
And by producing, you mean producing, and then they passed Remy's test from what you taught them.
So 31 Remy Prace's certified black belts.
Right.
I've taught over 1,000 seminars around the world. I teach 35,000 classes. I continually produce black belts. I don't promote them. Matter of fact, we did our 65th anniversary camp. The same year somebody else did a camp. They did a closed door black belt test. We did an open door black belt test. 50 people were promoted to black belt, 3 of which had never tested with us. They were for people who've been in the art, who got lost in the shuffle and kept their development going.
Yeah, orphan. Yeah.
All right. So 3 people who stayed with the art but were like orphans.
Right.
The rest, everyone else, has tested with us one way or another. Now, 7 of those, I will say, were junior black belts. But my junior black belts become adult black belts sooner or later. So once again, if we're talking about one of the things I would have liked to talk about in the show, are you teaching just people your age? Now, at least Noah, he's a teenager, so that's a good start. But I don't think Chris has any kid students. I think they're all adults. So
I'm going to guess they're adult, whether they're in their 20s or what.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're going to teach and you want the art to grow, you need to teach to kids. So
I can see him trying to do that, though. I don't think he
knows how to do it, and he needs help.
Yeah, I know, but he's got to learn, right? He's got,
Well, if he's willing to learn, there's access to people that he could talk. Hell, I've talked to a whole bunch of people, and he goes, what Dan teaches seminars are not the same at the academy. I've heard that many a times.
Makes sense.
Okay. And then of course, fart like a wind past his kidneys. There we go.
All right, here we go. He's probably passed. And
so here we go.
Here's the thing too.
Is there a codified written curriculum out of Modern?
We went over that
There's a bare minimum.
Last episode.
Short term, there was the black belt test that everybody took.
Right. That's a bare minimum that gets you to black belt. and that's a core, if you will.
So you don't have to do the written curriculum belt for belt that I had, and that Eric had, and Ty had.
Mm-hmm.
But if you did your work, our theme of the show. That's actually, I think we should talk this. Modern FMA Talks, Modern Arnis Chronicles. Do your work. But if you do, no matter how you did it, if you did all the material, because even Chad, who didn't come up with us, I didn't meet Chad until a decade after Remy passed, if not longer. Yeah. What Chad Bailey said was he would get the test sheet, and if there's stuff that he didn't know on the material or on the sheet, he would go and talk to people, say, what the hell is this? Is it a different term I don't know, or don't I know the material? So here's another person who verified that there was a curriculum. Now, Bruce made a comment on your show, Dean, that there wasn't a written curriculum. He's half right. There wasn't a belt-to-belt curriculum that was organizational wide.
Right.
That being said, there was the camp test.
Yeah, but I think that's part of the whole issue with this whole a lot of people that we've identified, which you're saying could be 95%, that don't have the core. I think it's due that.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, though, they still got to, okay, I want to keep talking about doing the work. If you're given, the problem is you run into.
Yeah, but if you don't have the written thing, you don't know what work to do.
No, but here's the thing, Dane. If you know that gets you to black and you didn't parse it out because you're not teaching it and get your people to get a stepwise pattern, that's on you.
Yes. If you're given that, right. So think about this. Go old school. There were no belts. Okay.
Correct.
So this is the list to become an instructor. You still have a curriculum. Mm-hmm. Now, unfortunately, most people. Okay.
A little off the beaten track here.
Yeah.
When Remy died, who was the highest ranking black belt? What was your rank?
I was 6, which is 7. Okay, so if we're talking active, Dieter and I were the 2 highest active ranked black belts.
So at the time of his death, you and Dieter were 6 degrees.
Yes, and when I say active, I'm gonna let me say this. It's being interactive. Matter of fact, because Dan Anderson was also 6, but he's changed the story.
My next question to you,
but he hasn't. But he wasn't around for years.
Okay, here's my next question. By virtue of doing these interviews, amenities, how did all these other guys all of a sudden get to whatever rank?
So there was a coup, in my opinion. So first of all, we're in Germany. Remy is on his deathbed, or perceived deathbed, because obviously 10 months later he passed. He offered me the opportunity. He offered to promote me again. I turned it down. I said, listen, you're going to get back on the road. And I was there. I was the only American there at the time of Remy's diagnosis. I left, and then I called home, or called Randy Shea, who was the chairman of the board at the time. I said, get him out of here before someone comes and gets rank. So what happened? A bunch of Americans come over, and they all got rank. That's just the way it is. So
wait. Let me understand this. Americans came over where? Went to
Germany. Where? So we were in Hamburg, Germany. We had to take Remy to the hospital because we were doing
So Americans flew over to Germany, and by virtue of the visit or whatever else happened across the table, they got rank.
So they were all those who weren't 5th degree were promoted to 5th degree, and then they took allegedly 5th degree black belt was junior master. But if that was the case, I would have had it already, because I was above them. So any kind of title that came due to numerical rank, I would have had, because I went Lacan, then Lacan Isa, all the way up to 6th degree, which is 7 because black plus 1, levels. So what they said was 5th degree was junior master. They changed it to full master, and then they capped it there at 5, which is weird because there's at least Dieter and I were the 2 active 6th degree black belts. And they said that the Masters of Tappy Tappy superseded everything, which would also include Remy himself, because it superseded everything.
When was that put in place? With the Tappy Tappy?
When Remy was in Germany and he had a brain tumor the size of a golf ball or baseball in his head.
Who came up? Who convinced them, or how'd that come about?
Remy started. He did give Gabrielle and Jeff Delaney a week before in Tunisia the Master of Tappy Tappy, but that was after I became Datu. And Remy offered it to me in '99. I had turned it down. I tested for my 6th, and then he gave it to me then again. So I took it. Actually, I got a call from Kelly in '99 congratulating me. And I'm like, dude, I turned it down. Oh, congratulations. Kelly, did you hear what I said? I turned it down. Whatever. Okay. So So I personally believe that the Datu-ship was a consolation prize because of how he fawned over my test at the Michigan summer camp. Because when we did the test in Michigan,
you mean the Master Tappy Tappy? You said Datu.
All right, or Datu. Oh no, I meant Master Tappy Tappy as a consolation because of my Datu-ship. So I in the 2000 summer camp, I tested for 6th degree and it became Datu. And all of the would-be masters of Tappy Tappy, except for Brian Zwolinski, was present there. Remy made this huge speech on how I was the highest ranked black belt in North America. And it was the highest test in over 17 years. It may have been the highest test, period. 17 years would have put it back to 83, but it was over 17 years. So who knows how far back that would have went.
So I guess what I don't understand is, why do we have a bunch of 8th, 9th, or whatever since his passing? Who is
they weren't?
Who,
huh? They weren't.
I know, but they are now. There's
okay.
Folks now, though.
Okay, because now what's happening? All right, Ernesto Praces. I'm the only one of Ernesto's, or I'm the only student of Remy's that I know of that Ernesto Praces promoted me to 9th degree and Grandmaster. But when he did that in 2007, not right after Remy died, because I was the one that got Remy and Ernesto back together. When I did that, or when they did this, he goes, Tim, I can't promote you in my art, but I can promote you. Or no, I can't promote you in Modern Arnis, but I can promote you in my art.
Gotcha.
So now the Filipinos are having Roberto sign off on diplomas. But we've been with Roberto a bunch of times. And the last time we were there, he told us specifically he will not promote people to black belt that has underneath him that have not trained with him. Because we talked about his family, his own Arnis Damano. So
that obviously changed, right?
I don't know if they're giving the full story. They're saying the Filipinos look at him as being the leading authority. And I'll go back to what I've said about everybody in the Philippines. They missed the development that Remy did over here. The brothers didn't train, So, theoretically speaking, the brothers are my classmates because they learned from their father, from their big brother Remy, and I learned from Remy. So the art kept evolving. And if Ernesto, who really had a global organization, which Roberto didn't, but the three brothers as a team spread Filipino martial arts over, because Roberto kept things locked down in the Philippines while his two other brothers were traveling and doing stuff. So it was a teamwork. There's no question about that. But if Ernesto wouldn't promote people in modern, neither should Roberto, because he doesn't do it. And the example I hate using is the forms. Modern Arnis had 4 forms in the Philippines. It came to the States. It went to 12 forms. It tripled the forms. Right. Okay. And that's a small indication of how much the art grew ever since Remy got here.
Right.
So how would they have it? Now, I'm not saying they're not world-class martial artists and they're not grandmasters. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that if Ernesto wouldn't go across, like when he promoted me, it was Tim, and he promoted me to 9th and Grandmaster with the intention to promote me in 10th, but he made it clear to me that it would not be in this. Now, I think what the thing here is, some other people, it's a power shift and they're doing things and all this other. I mean, I think some of the people who've got these Grandmasters are definitely valid, but not for carrying the banner of Modern Arnis. We talked about it before multiple times. Kelly Worden is a world-class martial artist. If anyone deserves to be a GM, he's one of them.
Sure.
But he doesn't wave the Modern Arnis banner.
No,
Renegade Jeet Synthesis. Same thing with Dieter. Dieter does Komaton, Modern, Anaya Eskrima, Jeet Kune Do, all blended in there. If it was Deutschland Arnis, perfect. But he represents Modern Arnis by name, but not necessarily by action.
What is Bruce currently? What's his rank?
Well, he was a 3rd, but the guys promoted him to 8th. But he was a grandmaster in Kung Fu because he inherited his style of Kung Fu. So I think a lot of people just would go GM, assuming that applied to the Fu. Like, hey, listen, I'm Datu Tim, and if I'm teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and people, it's Datu Tim teaching Brazilian, and no, it's white belt Tim.
White belt Tim is showing a few side control moves, right?
Yeah, but the thing, I'm not Datu in my Kuntao. I'm not Datu in my Sikaran. I'm not Datu in any of that shit. So
let me ask you this.
Okay.
did Remy, in other words, if he went to his school and he was going to rank somebody, and the person was an existing 4th degree in Parker Kempo, for example, would he match their rank?
Oh,
there's that. No, so that never happened. No. Okay.
No. So, Ty, how do you feel about that one?
No, I've never seen him do that, but there was some other considerations. Like, for example, you could be a camp host for multiple years, and you got your own school. Maybe you're a grandmaster in your style. You would be granted ranks here and there and sprinkle your way up, whether or not you tested or worked on stuff, because it was out of support and maybe administrative. And I get that. That's good business. And you enabled a bunch of people to get the art and get promoted.
Yeah, okay.
So I kind of get that, but it is different.
I could live with that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, part of what we do is the first, if you go like what the Kempo guys tell me, the first 5 degrees are what you get out of the art. The last 5 degrees are what you give back. What if someone's giving back early? What? There's nothing wrong with that,
No, absolutely not.
No, so I've got no problem about that.
Right.
So,
and it wasn't all at once; it was sprinkled up too. So it was actually.
I don't. Okay, but here's what I'll give you: Grandmaster Ron Browning taught Guy Metzger, trained him to become the UFC champion, cornered him in the UFC, boxed for Don King. This guy's got mad skills. Would teach with Remy, and actually, if it was just the two of them, you wouldn't need Wally J, because he's at that tier of grappling. It's a different vibe, definitely a different vibe.
Yeah.
But wouldn't need George Dillman, wouldn't need Wally J. The two of them together would tear it up. Okay. Remy only promoted him to a 1st degree. Okay. And there's a whole bunch of people that were like that. That they may have been black belts, but they were only black belts. They weren't, they're either Lacan Dayang or they were Lacan or Dayang Isa, male or female,
All right, here's my next question.
Okay.
So you have these different factions on Arnis. So I'm trying to make an association here and it might not be the best one.
You talking about, you mean currently these factions?
Yeah. So
are there really factions or are they just individuals?
Well, let's throw in under one umbrella factions, individuals.
Okay.
I guess. So my association, as far as compare and contrast, is going to be the KI. So the Grand Tatong died.
Yeah.
5 pillars. Sometime or another, those 5 pillars either became GMs, PGs, whatever. But under them, they could rank whatever, but they never went past, obviously, GM. Not to my knowledge, anyhow. Not to the best of my knowledge. So let's look at, so with the different factions, whether they're individuals or it's actually a faction, or I guess it's safe to assume that they have to be 8th, 9th, 10th levels, right? Because is that pretty much the situation? Obviously, like for instance, you're a 9th degree.
Through Ernesto.
Okay. And
I was a 6th degree, 7/6 through Remy.
Correct. So let's look at, Bruce, GM Bruce is 8th, right?
Currently, but that just happened.
That just happened. And who ranked and who gave him?
Dan and Brian.
So Dan and Brian gave Bruce.
At the camp that you were at.
Yep.
Oh, I must have left. Okay. The one that just happened?
The one where I met you.
Oh, that one.
Yep.
Got it.
Oh, I mean, that was,
Okay. All right. So GM Bruce for Arnis International is 8th degree. Okay.
Through them. And the same thing with Chad with Progressive Arnis he was first promoted by Bram and then recently about Dan and Brian.
I don't know what he was with Remy, but I know Bruce, I think, was 3rd is what we decided.
Yeah. He was a 3rd degree with Remy.
Or 4th level. Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
4th, yeah.
Okay. All right. That I was just curious on that.
If you want to talk about what the ranks were at the time before the tumor, they're all 3rds and 4ths.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't think anybody's been hiding that either. Like even I've been clear, right? I was 2nd, which is 3rd level Remy, and he asked me to teach to test like 2 or 3 times in separate years for 3rd, and I just didn't because I thought he was going to be around forever, and I wanted to do it perfectly.
So, Eric, what questions did you have? Let me do this. Iron Palm playing
Not specifically, although Remy could hit you that way.
Remy could do that stuff. Okay. Is there a World Conference? The original Datu?
There was a Datu's group where they talked about things, but they didn't always agree or get along. So,
yeah.
No.
So
you must treat the Datu conditioning. Yeah, Renee.
Is there a master alpha, master beta in the system?
Master
there's
beta.
a master baits, but that's another story. And then the highest ranked Canadian. If you talk about who's the best Canadian, that's going to be Craig Mason.
Who's the highest ranking? Oh, okay, yeah.
But if you're going to talk about who is ranked, Brian Johns allegedly is a 7th degree. Well, actually, no.
Who's the highest ranked direct from Remy in Canada?
If we're talking, well, there's nobody directly from Remy. Well, I mean, Brian Johns maybe, but that would have only been a black belt.
Something like that.
Something like that. So Craig Mason is a 9th degree through us.
What was his rank?
9th degree.
Craig Mason's 9th degree?
Through us, yes. Craig, Ty, and Chad, they're all the guys that take over in case something happens to me.
I know. I just
and they will prove the success.
I had no idea he was that high. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Craig is good.
Craig's really. He probably moves the best with me of the group because he spends the most time with me. He's going to Brazil with me. He's going to go to Barbados. He goes, and he works it all the time. He doesn't have broken hips or broken feet. Ty's got broken hips. I got a busted up foot, and and then someone else.
You mean he's younger?
He's a few years younger, but So the thing here is, if you think about, okay, listen, I was a 6/7. That was the highest rank at that time.
Right.
Now there were some Filipinos,
and this is from Remy saying, and that was quoted by someone who doesn't like Tim. So, just saying it's not just him saying that.
So I mean, and then, so if you look at archive.org, there was an article about this, and then people started busting. Oh, if it was Lisa McManus wrote the thing, the report. It was a report on the camp. Oh, if she wrote that you're shooting yourself in the foot. No, you have no clue what you're talking about because she wrote a chronicle of all the camps she attended. It was just, hey, what happened? That was it.
Yep.
She wasn't a fan of mine, and she still put it in there because, and it's like, and people really don't. I'm like, well, another person tried to say, well, the punctuation was wrong, and why would she write these things? Because she was reporting on what Remy said. It wasn't her word. I mean, it was her words because she wrote them, but she was inspired by someone else to write them. The boss, So
and that was verified by was it Roland? I forget who.
Well, everybody was there at that camp.
Right.
Like I said, all of the would-be masters of Tappy Tappy, with the exception of Brian Zawolinsky, was there because Brian didn't go to many events. Mm-hmm. He would go to the camps, and actually, I went to a couple of the Massachusetts camps. I only saw him there once. But I mean, he really didn't go out of his area. I mean, because this wasn't his profession. He only recently retired. He worked in corrections. He couldn't, and he had custody stuff going on with his daughter, so he didn't travel. I mean, did he go to a few things on the road? Sure, but we got to put that in perspective. And most people didn't travel. And this went back to the whole thing we're talking to Chris. Well, how people not know? Well, first of all, we talked about this back then. We didn't have the internet. And if you didn't travel, who would know who the hell you were?
There's only a few names that everybody knew.
Yeah.
There wasn't a database. I mean, hell, Dwayne Rainier did 2 camps, and he never gave the diplomas out for either camp because I have people still waiting for those diplomas.
Wow!
So I had to get black belt diplomas for my students from Remy. So yes, respectfully, what a mess it is. But I mean, that's just. I mean, but hey, it's Filipino. What do you expect? I mean,
it's people, humans.
It's not a system that is very methodical about writing stuff down and all this other stuff,
or even terminology.
And this shit didn't exist. Let's think about uniforms, belts. None of this shit existed until after World War II, and the Filipinos, specifically Remy, looked to see what the Japanese karate was doing because it was more popular in the Philippines than Filipino martial arts, and he took everything that they were doing in their demo. So all these titles, that was all bullshit. It's all bullshit. They just copied what everyone else did. The uniforms were the uniforms that they wear over there were based on Sport Karate USA uniforms.
Yeah.
That people, there was that thing I put up with Chuck Norris wearing them at the end of the Octagon or whatever the heck it was.
Right.
And their whole demo team's wearing that stuff. You think Century Martial Arts made those uniforms for an obscure martial art called Arnis that they never heard of?
I'm guessing not. No.
All right, I'm going on.
See, here's the thing. I guess more and more I have this conversation, you guys, is what I'm getting to. I mean, and we should definitely do another show. I mean, I could just pull a bunch of this stuff out for enough content for a show, but I just think that it's very easy from the outside looking in to look at Modern Arnis and just be overly confused as to who got what, how they get what, how they get their rank. You know what I mean? And I'm not being trying to be negative.
Stuff, you know?
I'm not trying to be negative, but I'm saying from an outside looking in, you know what I mean? So I can understand that there could be people out there that are quote unquote Modern Arnis, black belts or whatever, who by virtue of having these interviews and getting exposure of information from a bunch of people, that they might not necessarily have all the core stuff, but yet, and who knows what they're teaching, you know what I mean? So,
well, I mean, I would say, listen, I think everyone got a bit of the core. There's no question that people got bits and pieces of the core. The problem here is if we can all,
if we were, we can all play together and we get on the same thing. There's enough there that has happened because there is enough of that core. Yes.
And then just back to the kids' comment. Yes, Jackie, the youngest student she has is 4.
That's awesome.
The oldest is 72. Yeah, I got like a 3.5 right now. I recently went up to 4. I still got a couple of young ones like that. But I mean, this is the stuff we need to look at for the future. So how do you fix it for the future? Well, you just
that's good.
Get on board and get out of the way. That's
so here. Well, just to give Kurt a little background. So what I was trying to do, Kurt, was getting kind of the quote notables together, so they could work together and kind of formulate something beneficial for the future. Meaning the younger folks, younger generations coming up. But it kind of fell by the wayside. Long story short, or short story.
And it's not my fault because I've come to the table on more than one occasion, willing to work with people, and a bunch of people I've you know what, you give people too many opportunities, and when they do the same thing over and over and over again, I'm done with it. Okay, what did Eric say? Dr. Tim, I've discussed those questions. Such as the difference of what was taught. Sounds
like it's a legit question.
Yeah. Listen, if people are willing to, here's the thing. I think the problem boils down to is that it's either about ego or money. Okay, it really. I think now I'm with people. I think if people were open about this and they put their egos at the side, we could come and talk about things and say, hey, listen, talk about logical things. I don't like the truth at times, but I'm willing to deal with the truth. I don't like it when I'm wrong. But I'm willing to.
But you're willing to at least engage in a conversation. I mean,
well, here's the thing. I'm a person that's more than that. Time and time again, I'm willing to come to a table, giving someone the chance to change my mind on something, providing they give me that same chance to change theirs. But if it's just going to be a monologue and not a dialogue, I don't want nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to tell you what you're wrong. Well, then don't even waste my time.
From my perspective, I miss the old days when we're all coming up, and a lot of these guys came up the same time as me. We were all geeking out and sharing and doing all that stuff and talking about the good things and talking about what we learned and sharing this and this interpretation, that. And it was all, there was nothing in the way, right? Because there was nothing perceived to be lost or ego. It was, we're all geeking out. It was awesome. I missed that. I still do that. I don't know what happened.
I think it's part of these guys got certain levels and they're kind of like, well, I don't need to do that anymore. I'm such and such level, and you know what I mean, which I guess falls into ego.
Well, there was also another thing there with what happened at the time. Several of them got all sucked into or developed or bounced off each other. There was an understanding between the Masters Tappy Tappy, right? And what
the whole Master Tappy Tappy clique sounds like it's an abomination.
Well, there was some sort of discussions going on there, and one of them will tell you they were told to say X, Y, and Z, and that sort of a echo chamber there, regardless of the truth. that closes things off in my mind.
You know, here's the thing. I think Remy had every intention to promote them to Masters of Tappy Tappy, but the Masters of Tappy Tappy were never. Okay. So I'm going to tell you my story, and then it's up to you to do your fact checking, or believe me or not believe me. Remy was in Tunisia. I was teaching in England. We were meeting in Germany. While he was there, he was showing signs of something going on. He had a pullover. I got him upside down, inside out, and backwards. Ooh. But the Germans said, "Oh, we thought he was joking." You know, okay, whatever. Sure, he's stumbling a little. He's wearing his clothes funny, but he's joking. Okay, but he promotes Jeff Delaney and Gabrielle Roloff to fifth degree black belts and master of Tappy Tappy. Okay? All right. So he comes into Germany. I'm waiting for a week. I'm there. I get there before they do. He comes on the day we're supposed to do the camp. He's not feeling good. We take him to the hospital. He's told he's going to die. Okay. In the room, he goes to me, "Tim, I will promote you again." If he didn't want me to take over and do something, why would he offer to promote me? If the Masters of Tappy Tappy were the end all be all, then he wouldn't have offered this to me. Because the thing here is, what has always been constant in Modern Arnis is numerical rank. No title superseded anything. Dan Anderson became a 6th degree black belt, and a couple of years later, he became senior master. What do you give someone when you don't want to promote them? You give them a title, okay? So I was promoted and got a title simultaneously, and the title of Datu, leadership, was something that was not part of that promotion. It's not a rank-driven title. Okay. If Remy wanted me to take over, or if Remy didn't want me to take over, he wouldn't have offered it to me. Then the Americans come over after I leave. Things that some of the Americans weren't even there. So Chuck Goss and Brian Zawolinsky were not over there. It was Jim. No, actually, I think it was Jeff Delaney, Randy Shea, and Kenny Smith. Mm-hmm. Okay. So they went over, and whatever happened, happened. And the thing here is, you go back to the beginning, Filipinos, you have to ask them a question multiple times to get the right answer. Secondly, this guy had a tumor that size in his head.
Yeah, so God knows what was going on.
But if Remy wanted them above, why do you think he stopped at 5th degree?
Yeah.
Because I was a 6. Right. And then they capped their promotions. They capped their belt promotions for years at 5th degree black belt.
And I can believe that initially they went over there just for good purposes. Heck, I was broke at the time as a grad student. I was wanting to go over there just to be with my friend, my mentor, my adopted martial arts grandpa. But I'm glad I didn't because of what happened.
Now, there's one person in particular, chairman of the board, medical, financial advisor, executor of the will. He allegedly got arrested for embezzling millions of dollars, and then he was bailed out, and then he disappeared. And people tell me they think he's either in a non-extradition country or he's in a shallow grave because he may have been gambling at the Chinese establishments, and they made an example of him. But he was the leader of this group.
Of the Tappy Tappy?
Master, yeah, he was the co-grandmaster, whatever that is.
Yeah, whatever that is, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so days before Remy passed away, his entire estate disappeared. All the trust funds were liquidated. How do I know this? Because Roland Dantes put me in communication with the kids, and they told me this, and they showed me the bank support. They just, all of a sudden, all the money got liquidated overnight.
So, and nobody knows who did it?
I think we know who did it. And I think a lot of people got blamed for stuff that they didn't know, that they didn't do.
That happened.
So, you know, they were trying to blame a lot of stuff on Jeff Delaney. And I'm not a fan of Jeff, although we've always gotten along when we're around each other. Mm-hmm. But it was easy to put it on him. And I think there's a lot of stuff like he had money. Jeff had money.
He was already wealthy enough.
But allegedly, Remy sent Chuck to go after him, and Randy Shea called him up and said, "Don't go." And maybe it's because all the money that Jeff was sending back was going into Randy's pocket. Who knows? You know,
man.
But the thing is, when people have an agenda, they push it and they do whatever they can to protect it. And the Mots as a whole had a marching order, even to the point where I talked to Chuck. Well, I almost quit. Well, why didn't you? You know, if you thought that Jeff was such the Antichrist that he was, you either stand with him or against him. And if you don't take a stand against the person, and he's in your camp, you're standing with or behind the person.
Chris Nally had a question that he's been patient. I figured.
Okay.
But I think there's no good answer, Chris. There is. Everybody knows, but there's no one singular list. Tim's got his list. I got my list of people that I produced. That
I tried.
Promoted.
I tried.
It's a tough one.
The problem is people don't want to be part of it.
Well, that and Remy got around. You just don't even imagine how much Remy went to camps, seminars, everything, and promoted on his own. So who is managing that? The closest person will be Remy in his head.
I mean, just there's lack of that.
We're talking hundreds or thousands.
Oh yeah, right. I mean, listen, people tried to say that. Jeff Delaney tried to tell Rich Parsons, test didn't happen at camp. Or outside of camp. I got black belt tests that happened in my school, and I got video of it. Don't tell me the shit didn't happen. You might not be used to it. I mean, and actually, we had Randy's guy, the guy from Texas, Ed Kwan. Ed Kwan is like, I didn't think we did camp tests in the Texas camps. I'm like, come on, we were there. But it was like, but the thing here is there was tests all over the place. Just like the Texans didn't know what was going on because they were the catch up. And if they didn't have so Ty had a mentor that came from the East Coast that could tell him about the dealio and say, no, you can do it here, you can do it there, whatever. These guys were all brand new, and they just whatever they heard or thought they heard, that's what they believed.
It was weird because I'm sure he was at things where I tested, my students tested. I mean, this is for blacks, so I was confused about that. But so I was tested in front of Remy and passed with him, and that happened in Texas. That's at least 3 tests that I got ranked in Texas, plus the ones he asked me to test at, plus the ones that my students tested at. So, but Tim's point is valid, right? So if you didn't know that happened, you didn't know it, which is weird, but okay, that happens. But also, all of these places, there were times that Remy promoted people outside of camps and
I got promoted in the airport once.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that all the places he traveled and paths he crossed, despite the venues, right? I'm sure.
Or Rocky will tell you stories too about what Remy said to him. I mean, so that there's lots of stuff going on, and Remy, it's his art; he can do what he wants, so that's all fine. And no one would say if he promoted X, I don't think anybody is saying that he didn't do that. So I don't think that's the problem. It's what does that mean?
Yeah,
and there, as any art, I have a saying: there's black belts and there's black belts. Which one are you?
And listen, Remy encouraged people, but if you heard, did Remy say things to make people feel good? Well, yeah, but did people also read more into it than they should have been?
Oh, I'm sure they did. Absolutely.
And and it's like, well, or heard what they chose to hear.
I can count. I can't even count the number of times he called someone their protege, or "Are you becoming the next professor?" And some people, I think, ran with that, and I'm like, he's just encouraging you. It's okay.
Hey, I was a protege, but I didn't get it twisted thinking that a protege was that all.
No,
I was one of the proteges. Okay, that means he was pouring extra material into me and giving me extra attention. Great.
He introduced me and Raymond as his top representative, top guys. If you're in Texas, you need to train with Ty and Raymond. He introduced us to that. We knew what it was, and we're like, okay, we appreciate that. That's awesome, but we didn't make a big deal of it. But I only bring that up to point out that this is the kind of thing that he would do to enable the art, encourage people, bring them in, all of those good things. And if you took it in that vein, it's all good. You're not going to get spun out of, out.
But I mean, you got to think about it. How many people in the 80s and 90s and up to 2000 really understood the Filipino dialect?
I say very few.
And then throw on top the cultural aspects of what's being said.
Yeah. No, I say very few. Yeah.
So it could happen to anyone. It could have happened to anyone. I think a lot of people took advantage of Remy's situation. I think he got away. People got away with some stuff because he didn't necessarily understand what they were saying.
No, that makes yeah, I can see that. I mean,
I've heard about belt promotions that were done in a foreign language and was not the rank that he wanted, where he spanked them a certain amount of times and the degree was done a higher. First of all, I've only know of one person who got spanked by Remy. Or I've only seen one person in person get spanked by Remy, and I was on the receiving end of the damn stick. But I do know he did it once in a great while. But when he promoted me, he hit me he hit me 6 times, and allegedly he hit somebody else a certain amount of times. But the belt promotion was a belt above that, and because they may have perceived the title different than a numerical rank. So I'm not gonna, with everything going on, who knows? But I mean,
if somebody got confused, he often didn't correct them too. Again, that's a cultural thing, like, okay, they can do the wrong thing. And just like he would say, hey, you could do that. Didn't mean you were right.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Or that what he wanted. Right.
But at the end of the day, he could also make it right down the road.
He could. Yeah.
Because
he took the long view.
You know what? Okay, let's say someone got a belt sooner than they were supposed to.
It is okay, Tim.
No big deal. Why not? It'll be longer for their next belt.
Right.
I mean, because listen, we use a belting system. There's some kids I hold back because they're not ready. There's other kids I push forward because they need that emotional boost. At the end of the day, black belt's the great equalizer.
Yeah. Or pick your one. It could be 5th is a great equalizer. Any one that you want to pick.
And with the last camp we did, I said, all right, this is the 65th anniversary of the art. If people are not ready that weekend, my question to you is, would they be good in 3 to 6 months? Because there's only one 65th anniversary. And I trust you all as teachers to do what needs to be done to get them to that level.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, nah, we're all solid. But if no one came to me and said somebody needs 3 to 6 months. Everyone was like, boom. But if they were like 3 months of more grooming would have made the difference. Hey, I mean, look at all the shit we did with COVID. Had to make up for time-wise, So
absolutely. I mean,
but this definitely needs to be a show of some sort. I don't know if it's a show that you need to host or we have here or both. I don't know.
Yeah, we can make it.
It sounds like we're doing it right now, though. Whoever's stuck on.
I know. Well, so we better.
We still got 20 people watching. That's crazy.
Really? They must have gone to sleep. They fell asleep.
How many people are watching?
20, 21.
20 people are still watching this.
Yeah, we're coming up on 3 hours.
I had no idea.
It's because of
no.
Dean.
We definitely. Here's the thing. I
don't want to watch it on YouTube.
Dean, that's right.
I jotted some.
Oh my goodness! Hey, wait a minute! Look who's here.
Who?
Manuel Hart. Hey, brother, how you doing?
Nice.
He's a good guy. I jotted some notes down for the next potential show, and it's
Zach, you're hanging in there. Brian hanging in there too. Awesome.
Wow. Hey, Brian, where are you from? Where's Brian
from? I saw the occasional comments, but I didn't think people.
So are we making sense? All the people that are still here, are we making sense, or what's going on? Because we're just rambling. There you go. Kurt admits it. All right, good.
Sticking around for Dean.
Jackie's sticking around for Dean. That works. Yep.
Hey, Jackie, you missed the meeting Saturday or Sunday. If you need a copy of it, just let me know and I'll send it to you.
Meeting.
Oh yeah, we did our first virtual conference for the World Modern Arnis Alliance. Talk about what we've been doing, where we're going.
The member organizations.
So you and Jackie did?
No, all the member schools.
Jackie missed out. Ty had something he had to take care of. So any of those who were invited, well, I sent out an email. Not everyone got. It's kind of last minute.
Me and Jackie were having a separate meeting, probably.
Okay, there we go. For Augusta, Georgia. Okay, I'm going to be down in Jacksonville. I don't know how far that is. A couple of weeks. And then Zach, for the most part, PG Ty looks tired.
I am tired.
Send you an
email.
I'm
going to send Kelly.
I didn't see that. Okay, or did you just send me an email? Okay, whatever. But
I'm going to ask Kelly what days work for him and kind of go from there.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Hey, listen. So Dean, thanks for stopping by. Oh, as an outsider,
like a train wreck, Brian, right?
It's a fascinating thing.
It's like a train wreck.
Well, you know what? It can't be any worse. I mean, listen.
Every style does this.
If it was bikini, we try to kill each other, but we're not trying to kill each other. Because basically the Modern Arnis people have no balls. But
it's KI. They do the thing.
I'm
passive aggressive.
Okay. Okay. What is this? Protege isn't the
one who's taken. It's just one that they're being guided. It doesn't mean it doesn't. Right. Yep, you got it, Danny.
Can't keep my thoughts off the screen. So much information. No, we'll resend. Okay, got it. And then good night, Jackson. Yeah, kiss my ass, Renee. And dumpster fire. Yeah, no.
No, we're not dumpster fire.
That's Paulo.
Yeah.
Paolo is a dumpster fire.
We're not dumpster fire.
We should learn from these lessons, though.
I think so, Brian. But you know what? It seems to happen over and over and over again.
We're not learning.
Right.
Listen. Here's the deal. My organization, every member is registered. There's they get an ID card with a number. All their rank promotions are there. I can only be responsible for my martial family. And if
you do have a way forward too. It's
Yes.
not us, but we're to help with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so every group should do the same thing.
Yep.
Okay. It's up to them. If we came up, hey, John Savage, thank you. If we came up with, I don't care about the other groups anymore. Why? Because I need to focus on mine. I try to be
Jackie's group.
No, what?
You don't care about Jackie's group?
Jackie's part of our association.
Right.
Oh, okay, good.
No. She's a WMA member. No, the thing here is, I don't care about Brian's garage group. I don't care about Dan and his school. I don't care about Bruce Chu and his group. I don't care about what Dieter's doing because they've got it themselves. They got to do their own thing. What I care about is to help and support my people. Now, people do have to do their portion of that. I got to be here for them. And if I can work with some others at the same time, I'm more than happy to do that. But the thing here is, at my
dog ate his card.
My thing here is real simple.
I am tired.
I need to take care of the members of our organization. So, I
care about Bruce though. I care about Bruce.
Bruce has got to do it. No, but I'm
he's
saying
just saying organization. He's not saying
people. Organizations. You know what?
Yeah.
No, I know what you mean.
If Bruce was to say, "Hey Tim, can you help me out?"
I know you would.
I'd be there.
I know you.
If any of these guys, hell, Anderson used to call me up all the time for technological and business stuff, and it's like, hey, I my phone was always ringing for different people, and you're like, hey, where do you get this? What are you doing for the?
Awesome. I didn't know Jackie was part of your guys' group. That's awesome.
No, she supports a lot of people, and then she can do that. We don't hold any, and guys, I support Bruce and his people as well.
It's not indentured servitude, right?
Right.
Man, Tim zaps my energy as well.
I'm going to say this again.
Hey, I thought you were supposed to go to Spain, Renee.
Yeah, and stay there. Stay there, Renee.
Renee, aren't you going to Spain?
Come on, Renee. You go.
Now they're stirring it amongst themselves. See, that's
Isn't
good.
Growling Dog going to Spain?
Dean's got. Dean. Here's the thing. If Renee's not nice, I'm going to tell his kid who his real father is.
You heard it on FMA Talk.
Wow.
I'm joking. His wife, his girl's got way too much taste to hang out with me.
All right, let's do that. I just sent.
There you go.
There you go.
Datu Kelly at an email.
There we go. Ty and Casey in June.
Oh,
there you go.
Neat. Oh, that's
Bruce
nice.
in August,
Oh, you got Bruce coming. That's awesome.
Figures you're going. Okay, you're going June.
June, Finland.
My
Okay, I
people
misunderstood.
finish.
Once again, message me. I'll give you the contact for the people in Finland and Pori.
Yes.
Why did I think he was going to Spain? I don't know.
Oh Lord, whiskey and you guys. End of the night. I need a copy. Okay. All right. Listen. We'll call it, Dean. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah. I just sent him a message. I'll hear back from him tomorrow, and then I will absolutely get a hold of you and touch base.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thanks again, guys, for bringing me on. It was fun.
All right. Catch you later, brother.
See you, Dean.
All right. Dim Branco.
That's right.
Dim
Branco. All right.
September is Spain. Okay, so he's sort of right.
Okay.
Night.
All right. See you later, Jackie. All right. So, what a crazy show.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's all good. It's all good.
I really, I enjoyed it. It was just a good visit, just hanging out with Kelly. I mean, like you said, we didn't have to stay on point very long because we were just visiting, which was great.
Yeah. A lot of good information there, and actually, well, like I said, he nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, 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 boom. Yep. Okay, how to get up here? Leonard Trigg. End of story.
There you go. Yep.
I mean, there was a little more than that, but I mean,
Well, now and
when you come to Florida,
he's one of the people I want to meet.
Oh, when are you going to Florida, Ty?
I don't know.
Well,
when am I going to Florida?
I don't know. That was another topic.
I would happily go there when anybody wants me. But I don't normally get down there.
Okay. Which means someone has to fly him down. He's not just going to fly down on his own dime.
or there's other ways to travel, but yeah, we need to help because it just
yeah. See, that's the whole thing. Oh, you should come down to my place. So, someone asked Craig to teach in Toronto.
Okay.
For a Saturday morning class.
Right.
It's an hour class, and like you do know, it's an 8-hour round trip for me, right?
Ouch! Yeah.
And I go, and I know the person. I'm like, don't you dare do it for free. I mean, they should be paying you something. And I understand the person was just kind of thinking, hey, let's all hang out together and stuff like that. That works when you're in the same town.
Well, it's funny because there's a couple places I get to because of work that I could teach, and we end up not doing stuff. I get to Colorado Springs. I get to, all sorts of places.
Okay, cool.
But,
so hang out for a minute, and then we're going to end this up. Guys, everybody, as always, please stay safe, stay sane. Next week, we have Guru Errol coming on board from the New York City. And then we're off a week, and then I've got Grandmaster Carlos. Hold on. Yeah, he figured that. Okay, Danny.
It's in Florida, so come on.
Are you there? You're only there temporarily, right? Is that right, Danny? You're just there for a short period of time?
Yeah, I don't know.
Or are you living there now?
He did say, because it's
hey, I'll be down there March 15th through the 27th, and I've got like a week I got in between time. Let me know where you're going to be, and if you're still down there, I'll come visit. You're traveling, okay? How long are you going to be down there for? As we're about to say sign off.
Right.
So I got Carlos Patalinghug coming. He is a grandmaster in Doce Pares, studied directly from Don Cuesta. He is the U.S. director of WECAF. He will be on the 27th. So we're beginning to
oh, that's good, yeah.
break out of the Modern Arnis Chronicles and start doing FMA Chronicles.
And I've got some travel things the next 2 weeks, so we'll have to figure that out. But if without me, it's fine.
We'll talk at the end of the. Okay. Well, if you can't see him, then you'll definitely see him at camp because you're coming up, right?
Right. There you go.
All right. Hey, Danny, if you're going to be down there, just direct message me. We'll go from there.
And thanks, Zach, too. Yeah, thanks.
All right. Listen, that's what's going on. Great having everyone on. As always, please stay safe, stay sane. This is Dr. Tim.
And PG Ty. I'm sleeping here already.
Okay, Dr. Botting there.
Right, there you go. Yeah.
All right. And we'll see you next week.